how are we going to benefit it? So what we did was that we used to carry lot of educational materials along with us for the tribal communities. तो उनके बच्चों के लिए हम लोग एजुकेशनल मटेरियल लेकर जाते थे, और फिर जो गांव हैं, जो लोग हैं पर फैमिली, हम उनको गुड़ दिया करते थे, क्योंकि एनीमिया का रेट काफी वी नो दैट एनीमिक सिचुएशन इज क्वाइट हाई. तो गुड़ जो है, जैगरी विच इज देयर, that is a very wonderful source of iron. So we used to carry jaggery packets with us and we used to give it to them. तो जब कभी भी हम रिसर्च करने के लिए जाते हैं तो सिर्फ हमें लेने के लिए नहीं जाना है, हमें ये भी समझना है कि हम किस तरह से उनके we can help them. I don't like to use the word help also, basically, because that doesn't really connote what I have to say over here. We are not helping them, but let's I hope you understand the meaning which I'm trying to convey to you people about it. So how we can be of aid, या फिर okay जाने दीजिए, वो शब्द को छोड़ दीजिए, but हमें कुछ ना कुछ तो करने की जरूरत है, लेकिन उसमें भी हमारे में अहंकार का भाव जो है वो नहीं आना चाहिए कि हमने उनको कुछ दिया है. ये वापस से गलत भाव है, क्योंकि हम उनसे ज्यादा ले रहे हैं. जो उनका स्पेस है, आज हम लोग उसको कब्जा करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. Even the tribal spaces which are there, they are getting reduced because of urbanization and because of technological advancement. Now, similarly, when we look at the tribal governments, I'm now talking not only about the society, I'm also speaking about the governments. So when we look at the tribal governments, we find that they are the ones who have the authority to speak for the tribes as an entity. There are hundreds and hundreds of tribes. Within Maharashtra, we have so many tribes. हर एक tribes के जो norms हैं वो अलग अलग हो सकते हैं. So we find that the tribal governments which are there, they are the ones who have the authority to speak for the tribe as an entity. तो यहाँ पर ये बहुत जरूरी हो जाता है कि अगर आप फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप उड़ीसा में कर रहे हैं रिसर्च, आप छत्तीसगढ़ के हैं, आप छत्तीसगढ़ में रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, तो आप जो है ना, यू कांट ओवर जनरलाइज द फाइंडिंग्स ऑफ वन रिसर्च ऑफ द रिसर्च ऑन ए वन पर्टिकुलर ट्राइब टू द अदर ट्राइब. वो ओवर जनरलाइजेशन आपको नहीं करना है, क्योंकि हर एक ट्राइब का एक अपना अलग कल्चर है, उनकी अपनी एक अलग भाषा है, तो उसको हमें समझने की ज्यादा जरूरत है. तो वहां पर जब हम बात करते हैं कि जो फाइंडिंग्स के बारे में बात करेंगे या फिर रिसर्च के बारे में बात करेंगे, तो इट इज वेरी एसेंशियल दैट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट इट इज द ट्राइबल गवर्नमेंट्स अलोन हु विल हैव द अथॉरिटी टू स्पीक फॉर द ट्राइब. तो अगर मैं वारलिस के ऊपर काम कर रही हूँ, तो वारलिस का जो रिसर्च फाइंडिंग्स है, दैट आई कैन नॉट यूज इट फॉर काथकरीज. आई विल हैव टू डू अ सेपरेट रिसर्च फॉर द काथकरीज. अगर मैं काथकरीज के जो काम किया है, that work, yeah, I can't generalize it for the Mahadev police or for the Dhor police. I will have to use other parameters. I will have to actually go to the field work and study it. Like, working on tribal communities cannot take place within our rooms, within our study centers, within our universities, or it can't take place by browsing through numerous books which are there, which are published on tribal communities. नहीं, आपको कम से कम 2 से 3 फील्ड विजिट्स तो ट्राइबल कम्युनिटीज के लिए जाकर लेना, यानी कि लेना ही पड़ेगा, तब जाकर आपको थोड़ा बहुत उन कम्युनिटीज के बारे में जो समझ में आएगा. We will have to spend days with them. We will have to talk to them. We will have to interact with the people over there. We will have to be observant of every small thing which is taking place over there. And then we will find that the research which is being done on tribal communities from the environmental perspective के बारे में, if I'm again limiting myself, then it becomes more authentic and it doesn't become a mere publication. So this particular aspect which is there has to be also taken into consideration. And research is needed, let me tell you. Why research is needed? Because slowly and steadily what's happening is that their language is changing, their food habits are changing, their culture is changing, and it is changing because of the natural reasons. That is, we talk about urbanization, we talk about development. Language, now when I went to the tribal societies and I interacted with the people, so there are 3 levels of people that we meet. So we have the older generation, we have the middle generation, and we have the young population. So the young population, we find they are hardly able to understand what their language is. They all have picked up Marathi because they are going to schools wherein Marathi is the medium of instruction. The middle generation which is there, they are speaking a mixed language because they need to interact with the younger generation as well as they have been interacting with their parents. The older generation knows the language, that is their उनकी जो मातृभाषा जो भी रहेगी, तो वहां पर वो उस भाषा में बात करते हैं. अब इसमें आपको समझने की बात यह है, क्योंकि यहाँ पर कुछ भी लिखा हुआ नहीं है, तो ये जो वर्ड्स ऑफ विजडम है वो उन जनरेशंस के साथ लुप्त हो जाएगी, पॉसिबिलिटी है. तो उसको लुप्त होने से पहले, पूरी तरह से लुप्त होने से पहले हमें जरूरत है कि वी स्टार्ट compiling that information. So for example, how marriages would be celebrated. So initially they would be having their traditional songs, but I myself was a witness where in the tribal societies DJs were being played for the marriage ceremony. So what happens to those songs which has got so much of wisdom to it, or which are so very simple, and being very simple yet it talks about its proximity to nature? What happens? Who is going to conserve it? They won't be able to do it because they are not lettered. We can do it. So this is our, we have to take them into consideration. उनके साथ में मिलकर हमें इन सब काम पर, ये जो सारे काम हैं इसको करने की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है. And let me tell you that the government funds good. So if you are interested, तो ICSSR का जो इम्प्रेस प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं वहां पर आप इस प्रोजेक्ट उसके अंतर्गत आप आपके एरिया के जो ट्राइबल कम्युनिटीज हैं उनके ऊपर आप रिसर्च कर सकते हैं, इन डेप्थ एनालिसिस कर सकते हैं, एंड दैट विल रिजल्ट इन अ पब्लिकेशन. एंड नॉट ओनली दैट, बिकॉज इट इज अ गवर्नमेंट एजेंसी, so they even ask us that what are your inputs to it, or how we can bring about आप policy decisions के लिए हमें क्या राय देना चाहते हैं. So it covers that particular part also. इसी तरह से we found that initially the concept of suicide doesn't exist in the tribal communities. It doesn't arise. They don't think that running away from life is a solution to the problem, because basically their life is having so many ups and downs. उनके यहाँ पर तो हर दिन एक जद्दोजहद है. But recently we find that even the tribal communities, एक suicide case आया, but वो एक suicide case भी क्यों आया, क्या कारण था? So the reason which was given to us by one the other researcher, a person who has been working in the tribal communities for 30 years, he says that the impact of movies on tribal communities. तो वो जो इम्पैक्ट, तो हमारे लिए जो वो हमारे लिए जो हम बॉलीवुड मूवीज देख रहे हैं या जो भी हम रीजनल सिनेमास देख रहे हैं, वी टेक इट इन आवर स्ट्राइड बिकॉज दैट्स व्हाट वी सी अराउंड अस. But the tribal communities are detached from all these things, and when they see that, oh, this is a solution for the problem, or this is how these societies exist, तो फिर उनके लिए ये एक बहुत बड़ा द्वंद्व का विषय हो जाता है. It becomes a very very problematic for them, and it results in lot of complications for them as to how to navigate between the two societies which are so different. जिस तरह से हम कहते हैं ना कि इंडिया के अंदर बहुत सारा भारत बसा हुआ है, और वी टॉक अबाउट टू सोसाइटीज, वन विच इज भारत एंड द अदर विच इज इंडिया. यहाँ तो ये उससे भी आज की बात के बारे में हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं. तो ये बहुत जरूरी हो जाता है कि हम जब रिसर्च कर रहे हैं या इसको एनवायरमेंटल एनवायरमेंटल पर्सपेक्टिव से ही हमारी रिसर्च होने वाली है ट्राइबल कम्युनिटीज में, तो आपको इन सारी चीजों को जो है समझने के लिए और अंडरस्टैंड करने के लिए जरूरी हो जाता है. तो रिस्पेक्टफुल रिसर्चर्स जो हैं, दे विल नीड टू वर्क विद द ट्राइब टू आइडेंटिफाई appropriate avenues. We will have to follow the protocols which are there, and we will protocols follow करना बहुत जरूरी है. जैसे मैंने कहा, हमें उनको granted नहीं लेना है. We will have to follow the protocols, and we will also have to talk to them with regard to our proposed research work. Now, again, we have to understand that the tribal community, due to the lack of formal education, ignorance and technical limitations, do not receive funds for studies. However, यानी कि वो खुद का रिसर्च नहीं कर सकते, खुद को पढ़ नहीं सकते हैं, they can't fund themselves for the studies. As such, हमें जब हम प्रपोजल डाल रहे हैं, प्रपोजल लिख रहे हैं, तो at that time we will have to really understand, we will really have to interact with them in a proper manner. So like so in the Western academic world I'm talking about, there is a growing need. And this growing need is that, or the growing feeling which is there, this feeling is that instead of being the subject of research, rather than make the tribes only as the subject of research because they can't research themselves, it is essential that there should be an equal partnership. And what is this equal partnership? So this equal partnership will be between the tribals and the universities. तो ये अगर पार्टनरशिप हो जाती है कि ट्राइबल एंड यूनिवर्सिटीज आर टेकन टुगेदर, वी फाइंड दैट इट वुड बी पॉसिबल फॉर अस टू गेट द करेक्ट डेटा फॉर रिसर्च. For example, if I'm talking about मेरा जो काम था, it was the collection of stories, collection of folklore, collection of various proverbs, idioms and phrases which are used by them, as well as the words which are being used by them and the languages which are there. तो ये हमारा डेटा कलेक्शन का काम था. तो इसमें फिर हमने वही किया था कि हम वहां पर जो लोग काम कर रहे हैं, एनजीओस भी जो काम कर रहे हैं, उनके थ्रू हम वहां पर पहुंचे थे. क्योंकि अगर हम डायरेक्ट वहां पर पहुंचेंगे तो दे डू नॉट इन एनी वे गिव एनी इम्पोर्टेंस टू अस. दे जस्ट शट यू आउट फ्रॉम देयर वर्ल्ड. वी नीड समवन इन बिटवीन, और फिर उनकी मदद से ही हम वहां पर रिसर्च करने के लिए पहुंचे थे. एंड देन वी had many meetings. We visited various villages, from one village to the other, interacted with all of them, and thus we were able to have a better understanding, a better collection of data from them, and sort of we became one with them. And it was very moving also. This experience was very moving also for us, क्योंकि वहां पर जाने के बाद, as I said that हम लोग जब किताबें देखो तो हमें लगा कि ये बच्चे क्या करेंगे इन किताबों का. After the books were distributed, and when we took a round of the village, विलेज क्या है, एक छोटा सा एरिया रहता है कि हार्डली लाइक गांव में 20-22 घर थे, उससे ज्यादा तो कुछ भी नहीं था. तो जब हम उस गांव में घूमे तो लाइक it really humbled us, because there we saw that all the children who are there, they have taken books in their hand, and हमने उनको पेंसिल, शार्पनर और इरेजर भी दिया था, और नोटबुक, प्लेन बुक्स इस तरह से हम लेकर जाया करते थे. Every one of them had opened up the books in their homes. They were not aware कि हम राउंड्स ले रहे हैं, हम घूमने वाले हैं, और सब ने वो पेंसिल्स को शार्पन करना शुरू किया, उससे लिखना शुरू किया. तो the need for education to reach over there, या how to read and write to reach over there, is something which is very important. Maharashtra government is taking very proactive step in this regard. What this government is doing is that for the initial stages, along with the writing, the education in Marathi, they are also trying to see that the children receive the education in their own tribal language. So there are textbooks which are getting published in Katkari Bhasha or in Varli Bhasha, so that the child does not, अभी जिस तरह से हमारे लिए English एकदम foreign language है, उनके लिए मराठी भी फॉरेन लैंग्वेज हो जाती है, हिंदी भी फॉरेन लैंग्वेज हो जाती है, और इंग्लिश भी फॉरेन लैंग्वेज हो जाती है. तो आप सोच सकते हैं कि वो बच्चों को कितनी दिक्कतें होती होंगी एजुकेशन लेने के लिए, पढ़ने लिखने के लिए. एंड दैट नेचुरली रिजल्ट्स इन द ड्रॉप आउट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स फ्रॉम द स्कूल्स एंड कॉलेजेस तक पहुंच पाना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. तो द गवर्नमेंट इज टेकिंग मेनी प्रोएक्टिव स्टेप्स. So, there are many things which we realize in the course of working with the tribal people. And as I mentioned, that all these aspects which are there, they are not to be understood only from one particular dimension, but it is an interdisciplinary work that we are taking into account. Not only an interdisciplinary work, it is also interdisciplinary conceptual analysis which has to be taken into account. So we find that this change which will be there, where we talk about taking them as equals and working with them together, is something which will help us in correct dissemination of information, as well as interpretation of the data too. So, just by way of conclusion, I would like to say that the tribal communities which are there, they are adapting themselves to the changing world. They have lot many difficulties, lot many problems as they think about how to adapt themselves. And we will have to, like, we will also have to change our notions. Not only this, we will also have to understand, or we will also have to, like, there's already a lot of thought processes which are taking place, discussions which are taking place, that what should be the model of development, and हमारा जो मॉडल ऑफ डेवलपमेंट है, कैन दैट बिकम द मॉडल ऑफ डेवलपमेंट फॉर दोज पीपल. तो ये जो एस्पेक्ट है ना, सो दिस इज समथिंग दैट वी हैव टू understand and we have to take into consideration. So with this, like, I thank Lakshmikanta sir and all of you to let me express my views over here.
Yeah, thank you, Namita ji, for beautifully presenting almost all the, I mean, activities in relation to the environmental perspective of tribal culture and the field work that you have done during your project research program, and pointing out some of the magnificent issues, also some of the global issues in environmental philosophy and specifically for future generation. Because what I found is that, I mean, during in course of a presentation, what I found is that, see, the concept of nature, I mean, in the wide sense of the term, and the concept of environment in the narrow sense of the term, it is obviously understood as concerning either everything that is not supernatural. And during my introducing of the theme, I simply said that people should understand what environmental ethics is and what environmental ethics is not. I mean, people are making a confusion between these two. लोग ये समझ लेते हैं यही एनवायरमेंटल एथिक्स है, लेकिन भैया एनवायरमेंटल एथिक्स इतना सस्ता नहीं है, इतना चीप नहीं है. Or simply dragging of ethical theories into environment does not make one philosophical or environmentally concerned. Even if a person does not know the theories and all the complex issues in environmental philosophy, he or she has some kind of environmental awareness, and that is the best example is the tribals.
Yes.
And they are always thinking about some supernatural activities, supernatural being in each and every part of nature into their day-to-day life. And the fieldwork Professor Namita Nimbalkar ji has made during her research, that proves that each and every part is, I mean, each and every part is approved or sanctioned by God in nature. So there is a book called Reverence for Life by Albert Schweitzer. You know, Schweitzer says that all lives are, I mean, all lives are, all life. Yeah, yeah. Who is speaking? All lives are sacred, and tribal people have proved, they have proved that each and every part of nature is sacred. And I found that I belong to a district in Odisha where I was just discussing with Abhishek and other people, Abha, that I belong to a district in Odisha where 75% of populations are tribals, the Adivasis. I mean, the adjacent area to Tatanagar, Jharkhand, and Bihar. And only 25% people are the normal people. I mean, the non-tribal people. I, 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 I have seen that these people have a much more close in relation to nature. They're very close to nature. And they said that even if that thing is already, I mean, tribal, though the tribal expressions of tribals in relation to nature is not organized. It is not an organized discipline. It has not written in a book form, but the practice that they are involved with, that should be commendable. And we have to learn from their culture. And we are sitting in metropolitan city, or we are sitting in a city, or in a developing and or developed city, but still we have to think about the tribal's life, who still till today in this globalized area, till today they are also thinking that nature is nature is a supernatural being for them.
May
And
I?
we definitely, I now request our participants to give if they have some
May I?
queries.
May I, Professor Padhi? May I say
Yes, yes,
something?
Rekha ji, please go on.
Hello, ma'am.
Rekha ji, introduce yourself.
Yeah, ma'am and myself, we are good friend in Facebook. So I
Oh,
always,
Oh,
so
Rekha ji.
it's nice to hear you, ma'am, and many congratulations.
Thank
You
you.
had presented, yeah, really well. It is very enlightened. Even I am working actually in a tribal community of a Santhal community. We have Santhal community there. So I have a little a different kind of approach I would like to share with you. As you have mentioned that there should be a published book of their own languages and their culture. Of course, their culture has to be preserved. But somewhere, what I don't know, I may be wrong also. We are not endorsing that the tribal has to be, I mean, they should keep, they should be in their own culture in this way, like by putting them, because since we are working in a different perspective, since we try to teach them English, okay, so that they can come to the mainstream, they can they can go to the same school like convent schools and all, to bring them from there to this level. We are working in this process. But what I learned from your lecture, that is, I find it a bit different. So how to go with it? I mean, is it fair enough to put them as they are and try to endorse their culture and keep them as they are, or try to bring them from there to the mainstream of the society where we are? When we talk about our education of our children, we always look for the convent school. But when it is about the tribal children, we try to give them those kind of facilities so that they will grow and they will learn and they will be in their own culture, own society. So how to justify with this? I just want to comment on this. I
To
hope
me,
I make you understand.
yes, thank you, Rekha ji, for the question. Like when I was speaking about it, I said that in the introductory phase for the children's education, their own language textbooks are also made available to them. The reason
Yes.
for this is that it becomes easy for them to navigate. Like as I said, that for them everything is foreign. English
Ma'am,
is foreign.
this is needed for every child actually, the language, of course.
Yeah, English is foreign, Odia will must be foreign for them, or even Gujarati will be foreign for them. So in the initial phase, for the primary level, the Maharashtra government has come up with a concept wherein they would be introduced certain concepts. Like हमारा जो west developed world के कुछ concepts होते हैं जो उनके यहाँ पर है ही नहीं. तो वो जो डेवलप वर्ल्ड के कॉन्सेप्ट है उनको शुरुआती दौर पे हम उनको इन भाषाओं के द्वारा सिखाएंगे. और ये जो दूसरा सवाल है ना आपका, ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सवाल है क्योंकि इसके ऊपर ना अभी भी द वर्ल्ड इज डिवाइडेड that whether we should let them be in their culture or whether we take our process of development to them, because this really makes us stand at the crossroads. एंड वहां पर ही ये सवाल आता है कि जो हमारा डेवलपमेंट मॉडल है, जो हमारे सोसाइटीज का डेवलपमेंट मॉडल है, क्या उसी को हम डेवलपमेंट मॉडल कह सकते हैं या फिर हम उनके साथ रहकर उनके डेवलपमेंट मॉडल को अपने साथ जो है वी कैन टेक इट टुगेदर और नॉट. ये बहुत बड़ा सवाल है और ये सवाल इसलिए महत्वपूर्ण हो जाता है क्योंकि जब हम ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज को देखते हैं ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, वी फाइंड दैट दे आर द वंस हु हैव बीन केप्ट एट द मार्जिन्स. अभी just few days back I came to know that in the USA also they have started with a tribal university, not only in the sake of name. Okay, बहुत सारी universities tribal universities कहलाई जाती हैं, बट वहां पर जो लोग हैं दे विल बी फ्रॉम द ट्राइबल कम्युनिटीज. तो वो इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है. इट्स नॉट लाइक पीपल लाइक मी हु हैव डन वर्क ऑन ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज सो वी विल बी गेटिंग द पोस्ट एंड पोजीशंस ओवर देयर. नहीं, वो नहीं कर रही है. इट इज गोइंग टू बी अ ट्राइबल यूनिवर्सिटी इन द एक्चुअल सेंस ऑफ द टर्म, with everybody figuring in from the tribal communities itself.
That is
Plus,
very much needed, huh?
yeah.
true,
Plus,
true,
there is
true.
also a need. There is also important that we will have to have various. We can't have only one model of development. We will have to have different models of development. And in those
Exactly.
different models of development, we will have to integrate certain things from them which we find is missing in our own development model. For For example, reverence towards nature. This is something which is missing in our models. And again, हम जब ये कह रहे हैं कि क्या उनको उनके ही कल्चर में नहीं रहने देना है, तो देखिए हम भले कॉन्वेंट एजुकेटेड हैं लेकिन हम अपना पूरा कल्चर तो नहीं ना भूले हैं। हम तो अपने कल्चर को भी फॉलो कर रहे हैं, और जो बेस्ट लाइक एज गांधी जी हैड
Exactly.
सेड दैट लेट द winds of change blow in from all of over the world, but I refuse to be blown off. I refuse to be like, so that's how we have to be. Let the winds of change come to them also. But you can't do it at the cost of making them say that नहीं आपको अपना कल्चर जो है वो पूरी तरह से भूलना है या चेंज करना है। तो और ये हमारे किसी की भी हाथ में नहीं है, लेट मी टेल यू। हम चाहे कितना भी कल्चरल चेंजेस के बारे में सोचें, हम चाहे कितना भी यूनिवर्सल आउटलुक के बारे में सोचें, वो नहीं हो सकता है। Because as human society, it is essential that there should not be uniformity. There should be we talk about multiculturalism, and multiculturalism brings in the flavors which makes a society a better place to live in. A simple example, हम सबके बर्थडेज होते हैं। जब 40 साल पहले बर्थडेज होते थे तो किसी के भी बर्थडे पर केक नहीं आया जाता था घर पर। सबके अपने अपने रिचुअल्स हुआ करते थे, सबके घर के अपने अपने तरीके रहा करते थे कि जहाँ पर कि शायद हमारी माँ तिलक करेगी, पूजी या मीठा कुछ बनाएगी, और वो मीठा खीर हो सकती है या कुछ और हो सकता है। बट आज हमने क्या कर लिया, हमने वो जो केक है विच इज समथिंग वेरी वेरी वेस्टर्न in its origin, which is something you can say that the Britishers or the Western societies had brought in, that has become a part and parcel of a culture, and we don't question it. अगर केक नहीं है तो बर्थडे नहीं है, इस तरह का हम मानने लग गए हैं। तो प्लस एट द सेम टाइम हमारे घर में फिर भी मीठा बनता है, घर में फिर भी हमारे तरीके से जो हमारे यहाँ पर जैसे आरती उतारी जाती है वो फिर भी हम करते हैं। तो इट इज कंबाइनिंग कमिंग ऑफ टू कल्चर्स टुगेदर, which again becomes more beautiful. So let's have that particular perspective when we work with the tribal communities also.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Wow. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. I think if there is no question or clarification, let's go
Uh,
for a 10 minutes
I
break.
I
Yes,
actually had a
Shruti.
few questions.
Yes, Tomya. Yes, Tomya, please.
Yes. Hi, ma'am. Thank you so
Hello.
much for the lecture. So I have three questions. I'll put them. So one of the problems that I think one might face while studying tribal cultures is that we use certain tools and categories of epistemology while understanding any sort of any culture of knowledge or any tradition of knowledge. So how much does that affect, or does it become a problem in understanding concepts and traditions of the tribal culture also? I mean, for example, and this is just a random example I'm coming up with. So we so many times talk about how many of the tribal communities or indigenous communities are matriarchal in nature, but we say that only by seeing that, okay, just because the head of the household is a woman, and hence we consider it a matriarchal society. So what we are doing is we are trying to apply the concepts which we have understood in our culture to their, in understanding their tradition. But I mean, the question gets lost. I mean, the question that whether the women, they actually uh, you know uh, are made the subject of equality or are treated with respect, that question is lost just by observing one of the so does this become a problem using the tools and categories of our understanding to understand their culture? And this is also something which I'm saying, keeping in mind one of the papers that I read. It was Environmental Etiquettes and Environmental Ethics by Shenny and Weston, where the authors said that most of the indigenous societies, and they had uh, the indigenous societies of North America in mind. So what, according to them, happens there is that their epistemology is not the basis of ethics. Rather, ethics is the basis of epistemology. So first they come with concepts like love, care, and hence they try to come up with knowledge structures. So the authors there try to tell us that how it becomes so difficult when we try to apply our understanding to their. So that's one of the questions Other is you talked about how you warned us about over romanticizing tribal affairs, tribal cultures, and which makes sense really. So I would want you to comment on, what are the flip sides of prac- of those practices which we have been over romanticizing. I mean, how we've been talking about the tribal culture being environmental friendly, but what are the difficulties that the members of those tribal cultures probably have to go through in maintaining those practices? Or the question that if they were given a choice, or if the younger generation were given a choice, would they choose to live the same lifestyle which is more environmental friendly, or would they rather choose to live a lifestyle which uh, rather we are living like in cities and all? The last question is uh, consumerism, and like how you talked about DJs coming and playing an important part in their uh, various like weddings and rituals. So in similar way, how much is consumerism affecting the tribal societies? Because uh, I believe that consumerism is one of the major reasons of environmental degradation today. I mean, how fast fashion forces us to just stock piles of clothes which are not actually needed, which also takes us away from Gandhian ethics of using only as much as is needed. So how much of it have you observed in your field studies that it's affecting the tribal communities or the younger generations of the tribal communities?
Soumya, thank you for the question. In fact, I have answered many of these questions in the course of my talk with all of you. So when I speak about it, so basically, as I say, that is words of wisdom that we talk about. So they do not have anything which is metaphysical or epistemological or axiological or logical, nothing of that sort. For them, everything comes to the core point of being ethical. And that's how the work which is there or the understanding of them is concerned with. So they have the ethical component more in them, or rather they look at it from the ethical perspective. Secondly, when we talk about it, that our understanding or the difficulties which are being faced by them, or do we take our model of development again, wherein I had a discussion with Rekha ji, or whether the younger generation given a choice, would they try to be a part of our culture? So basically, like, what is important for them, what becomes important for any one of us is that whether employability is there or not, whether money, because जो भी हम जी रहे हैं या हम कमाने की कोशिश करते हैं, it is to fulfill the basic needs of our life. Initially is the basic needs of our life. So since they are not even able to fulfill the basic needs of our life, of their life, they will definitely aspire, as you asked, that would they want our life. 110% they would want our life. लाइक इफ यू लुक एट दिस ट्राइबल सोसाइटीज, आप में से कुछ काम भी कर रहे हैं, तो आपको अभी पता चलेगा कि बरसात के समय में ऑल ऑफ देम वुड गो बैक टू देयर होम्स, because in the city areas they do not get any employability during that particular point of time. And the reason for them to go back to the home is that whatever farmlands they have, they will be doing a little bit, they will be carrying out a little bit of agricultural activities on those farmlands. And definitely they will be aspiring. Who would not want to live in a home wherein the rains do not play havoc on their lives? Who would want to walk, even like, I'm talking about a city like Mumbai, and Mumbai से बहुत ज्यादा दूर नहीं है वो ट्राइबल बेल्ट, वहां पर आज भी लाइक इवन टुडे women walk at least 1 or 2 kilometers to carry water. And it's not one or two water ball, like एक या दो बर्तन ही उठा कर लेकर आते हैं। उनके सिर, मैंने खुद देखा हुआ है, सिर के ऊपर 3-3 हांडे हैं, साइड में एक हांडा है, और विदाउट चप्पल। द रीजन व्हाई दे वॉक विदाउट फुटवेयर इज कि बरसात में या बाकी समय में भी पानी छलकता है, पानी छलकने के बाद मिट्टी गीली हो जाती है, वो उनका पैर फिसल जाता है अगर वो चप्पल पहनकर चलती हैं। तो ये who would want to carry water from the wells on a daily basis? They will definitely aspire to be like us. They will definitely want to have water in their homes wherein it will save them from so much of trouble. तो ये तो aspirations उनका है ही है। कंज्यूमरिज्म बड़ा है, सभी का बढ़ेगा। लाइक इकोनॉमिक्स में एक डेफिनेशन है कि मैन इज अ बंडल ऑफ डिजायर्स। तो ह्यूमंस आर अ बंडल ऑफ डिजायर्स एंड वी हैव सो मेनी डिजायर्स। तो व्हाई नॉट, उनकी भी तो डिजायर्स हैं, वो ट्राइबल्स हैं, तो इट्स नॉट द केस दैट दे डोंट हैव एनी डिजायर्स, इट्स जस्ट दैट दे डोंट हैव द परचेसिंग कैपेसिटी। तो ये एक एस्पेक्ट है. एंड our tools, if we carry it and we try to have an understanding of them, it definitely creates problem. And that's why in the initial phase itself I said that we will have to leave our biases. We will have to go without our biases in order to carry out a study on them. We will have to go without the understanding that oh, I'm inferior, I'm superior to them and they are the ones जिनके ऊपर मैं पढ़ाई करके उनका उद्धार करने वाला हूँ या करने वाली हूँ. तो ये सारे बायसेस को छोड़कर ही और सारे टूल्स को भी छोड़कर ही हमें वहां पर जाना पड़ेगा. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. I have a question. I'm Ashikul Khan.
जी बोलिए.
Hello. हाँ.
जी बोलिए.
Actually, ma'am, I am very much uh, interested to know this tribal culture. I have already done a small project on the basis of culture and language transformation in Adivasi community in Sundarban area. सो मैम मैं देखा हूँ उन लोगों के अंदर जो है मतलब ये कल्चरली हम लोग हमारा कल्चर को थोप रहा है या तो क्रिश्चियनिटी या थ्रू हिंदुइज्म रिलीजियंस. सो एक तो रिलीजियन का कल्चर जो उनका एक इंडिजिनियस रिलीजियंस वो छोड़ के हमारा रिलीजियंस की प्रैक्टिसेस हम उनसे करवा रहा है वो. और दूसरी बात जो है पढ़ाई लैंग्वेज जो एज ए बंगाली वहाँ पे हम लोग पढ़ाते हैं एक स्कूल चलाते हैं आदिवासी स्कूल चलाते हैं. तो वहाँ 20-25 बच्चे हैं उसमें सबको या तो हमें बंगाली से सिखाना पड़ा है क्योंकि हम नहीं जानते वो लैंग्वेज वो आदिवासी शांथाल लैंग्वेज. या तो इंग्लिश की तो बात करना ही नहीं चाहिए क्योंकि वो बोल ही नहीं पाते इंग्लिश. तो ये कम्युनिकेशन जो गैप है मतलब हमें लगता नहीं है कैसे खत्म होगा. अभी तक जो रिसर्च हो रहा है आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस इन लोगों के ऊपर ये जो ये बढ़ रहा है मतलब उनके अंदर जो डिफरेंस हम लोगों से हमारा सोसाइटी से उन लोगों का एक अलग कल्चर अलग सोसाइटी ये डिफरेंस कैसे कम होगा. ये इतना पॉलिसी मेकिंग हो रहा है उन लोगों के ऊपर तो भी लग रहा है कभी ना कभी वो लोग वेरी एंग्री टू दिस गवर्नमेंट और सोसाइटी क्योंकि वो कभी भी कुछ मौका मिल रहा है तो वो गन उठा रहा है और रिवोल्यूशन की बात कर रहे हैं. अभी भी वो माओ और काफी सारे आइडियोलॉजी जिन लोगों को फॉलो करता है तो इनका कुछ प्रॉपर तो होगा कुछ या हमको उस ग्राउंड लेवल पे जाके बात करके भी ये सॉल्यूशन नहीं हो रहा है. अब आपका क्या मतलब ये है ओपिनियन है. मैं कभी वो एबोरिजिनल के बारे में पढ़ा हूँ और भी एक राइटर है मोहशिता देवी जो बंगाली राइटर्स एक्टिविस्ट आदिवासी एक्टिविस्ट थे. काफी सारी किताब लिखे है रिगार्डिंग आदिवासी शांथल और बिरसा मुंडा के बारे में. तो आपको क्या लगता है
ये बहुत ही
ट्राइबल रिगार्डिंग ट्राइबल इनजस्टिस बेसिकली यही क्वेश्चन है मेरा.
ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण सवाल है क्योंकि ये जो फाइंडिंग्स वहाँ पर मैंने भी किए हैं लेकिन कई बार क्या हो जाता है कि हम जैसे कि आपने लिया विषय कि धर्म क्या है उनका या फिर किस तरह से उनके ऊपर दूसरे धर्म जो है वो थोपे जा रहे हैं या कई बार उनका जो खुद का धर्म है वो उसको किस तरह से मिस इंटरप्रेट किया जा रहा है. प्लस ये सारे सवाल हैं और ये सारे सवालों को हमारे पास जवाब जो है ना बहुत मुश्किल से मिल पा रहे हैं. सबसे पहले जो है ना कि हमें ये देखना है कि व्यक्ति जो है ना व्यक्ति है या परिवार जो है उनकी कुछ बेसिक रिक्वायरमेंट्स रहती हैं और वो बेसिक रिक्वायरमेंट है रोटी कपड़ा और मकान. ये रोटी कपड़ा और मकान अगर उनको ठीक तरीके से मिल जाए उसके बदले में we should not ask them for any kind of a price to be paid. This is important. Like Dr. Mott, he had come from America to meet Gandhi, and he was talking about the missionary work which is being carried out. And at that time, Gandhi said to him, "Ki even Jesus would be ashamed of you." And Dr. Mott asked why. He says, "Ki you are making conversion as a price of the charity or as the price of the work that is being carried out by you." तो ये हमें करने जो है ना इसको कहीं ना कहीं तो भी थामने की जरूरत है. आज अगर आप देखेंगे तो देयर इज लॉट ऑफ फंडिंग व्हिच इज कमिंग इन फ्रॉम फॉरेन कंट्रीज इनटू लुक एट नॉर्थ ईस्ट. पूरा का पूरा ट्राइबल रिलीजन्स जो है वहां पर अभी क्या हुआ है, तो वी फाइंड दैट मैक्सिमम ऑफ देम हैव कन्वर्टेड टू क्रिश्चियनिटी। अब धीरे धीरे उनमें थोड़ी सी जागरूकता आ रही है, तो दे से कि few of them are saying that no, we also profess a tribal religion. But this is a very, as I said, that this is a very dicey topic, and on this there cannot be any answer which is the answer for it. Each one of us will have to navigate it, each one of us will have to work on it, एंड यहाँ पर ना ये बॉटम्स अप अप्रोच जो है ना वो काम करेगा, रादर देन टॉप डाउन अप्रोच काम करने के बजाय। बॉटम्स अप अप्रोच का मतलब क्या है कि जैसे कि आप वहां पर काम कर रहे हैं, तो आपके साथ जो होने वाला डायलॉग है वो शायद, लेकिन वो डायलॉग भी जो होगा वो कैसे होना चाहिए, वो निरंतर होना चाहिए, कंटिन्यूटी में होना चाहिए। ये नहीं कि हम, लेकिन नॉट अबाउट यू, हम में से कई लोग कुछ दिन जाते हैं काम करते हमें लगता है हो गया काम, नहीं। तो वो निरंतरता जो है ना वो बनाए रखनी पड़ेगी। और साथ ही साथ उनकी जो बेसिक रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, व्यक्ति कब किसी के आश्रय में जाता है, जब जाता है कि जब वो देखते हैं कि घर में कोई बीमार है और उसकी कोई देखभाल नहीं हो पा रही है, मेडिसिन की जरूरत है, दवाइयों की जरूरत है, तो फिर उस समय में वो दूसरी दूसरी जगह पर आश्रय जो है वो खोजने लगता है। तो ये जो सवाल आपका है ना, इसके लिए भी वापस से एक अलग से इंडिपेंडेंट लेक्चर होना चाहिए, क्योंकि इसके इतने नुआंसेस हैं, इतने नुआंसेस हैं कि इसको मैं कुछ शब्दों में बांधकर आपके सामने उसके बारे में जवाब नहीं दे सकती। सिर्फ ये कहा जा सकता है कि हर एक का अपना एक अलग इंटरप्रिटेशन होगा, सिचुएशन एनालिसिस करना पड़ेगा, और फिर ये जो है ना, ये एकेडमिक एक्टिविटी के साथ साथ ये एक्टिविस्ट की भूमिका जो है ना उसमें भी हमें जाना पड़ेगा, तब जाकर हम इन सवालों का जवाब जो है वो ढूंढ सकते हैं। सिर्फ ऐसा रिसर्चर, एज एन एकेडमिशियन हम नहीं, हमें एक्टिविस्ट भी बनने की जरूरत बन जाती है।
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your
Thanks.
answer.
Thank you. I let us. I am thankful, Namita ji. Beautifully. I mean, you have already responded and beautifully presented. Let us go for a 10 minutes break, and then we will join at I think 12:10. Hey, this is 12:10, 12:20,
Okay, fine.
because up within one we have to finish this lecture,
Yes.
and because Professor Vasab Chaudhary will be joining us at 1 p.m.
Oh,
the next
तो
yeah.
लंच कितने बजे है?
लंच आज 2:30 बजे होगा,
अच्छा,
वो ऑफलाइन में होगा।
ओके।
आप
ठीक।
अगर लखनऊ इतने जल्दी में नहीं आ पाए, अगर लखनऊ आते बहुत अच्छा लगता है, बट डेफिनेटली
Fine. No, we will get meet at 12:20. I will be there. Hmm? Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
and we'll be joining very soon.
Yeah.
And now 10 minutes break. By 12:20 we'll be joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
जी सर, 12-20 हो गए। आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
Yeah.
हाँ जी।
Yeah. Now it comes.
या
Yeah, sure. Participants, you are requested to join. 10 minutes is over.
पार्टिसिपेंट्स को वैसे ब्रेक ही नहीं देना चाहिए, तो ऑनलाइन है ना, वो तो कहीं भी मूव हो जाते हैं वीडियो ऑफ
नहीं,
होने की वजह से।
सब लोग यहीं पे है, कहीं नहीं
हाँ,
गए हुए हैं, सब लोग यहीं पे है। Yeah.
अच्छा, आप क्या इर्द गिर्द ही हैं? मुझे
हाँ, ये तो आज क्या है कि मैं पार्टिसिपेंट्स के अंदर इनके बीच रहता हूँ।
अच्छा, हाँ
सब
हाँ,
लोगों के साथ मुलाकात हो जाता है, मिल के बात करते हैं सुबह डाइनिंग टेबल पे। और इन लोगों ने एक व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप भी बना दिया, इसमें
वो तो
मुझे भी ऐड
आजकल
कर दिया, जयशंकर जी
तुरंत
को
हो
भी ऐड
जाता
कर
है,
दिए।
तुरंत
हाँ
व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बन जाते हैं।
हाँ हाँ हाँ।
हाँ,
मुंबई पे अभी टेम्परेचर कैसा है नमिता जी?
इट्स वेरी प्लेजेंट।
इट्स प्लेजेंट।
या,
इन हियर इट इज 42 डिग्री।
आई अंडरस्टैंड। बहुत। मैं वैसे अभी दिल्ली, आगरा, चंडीगढ़ होकर आई थी।
अच्छा।
इट वाज, बट इट वाज गुड। गुड इन द सेंस क्या है, जब तक आप एसी रूम्स में है ना, तब तक सब ठीक है। द मोमेंट
हाँ,
यू आर आउटसाइड, देन एवरीथिंग गोज फॉर अ
देन गॉन।
टॉस।
यस।
सब कुछ सब गड़बड़ हो जाता है।
आज आपके लेक्चर के बाद प्रोफेसर बासव चौधरी हैं, एक रिटायर्ड वाइस चांसलर, वो बोलेंगे 1 घंटे के लिए ऑनलाइन में, उसके बाद फिर ऑफलाइन सब। प्रोफेसर पनीर सिल्वम कैम हियर।
हम्म।
Then tomorrow we have Professor D.K. Mohanto.
हाँ हाँ
No,
हाँ हाँ।
sorry, Professor Basav Chaudhary, Professor Panir Silvam, and there are some presentations by the participants.
ओके ओके।
I have selected 7 to 8 number of participants,
अच्छा, ग्रेट।
and they have to submit the gist of 2 best classes.
ओह, ओके। हम्म,
And
चलिए।
then Ambika Datta Sharma is coming.
वो तो
This today and 15th, 16th, and up to 17th, tight schedule.
वेरी टाइट, दैट
Varieties of
अंडरस्टैंड।
varieties of people are coming.
राइट राइट राइट।
On I mean day before yesterday on 13th, Professor Rakesh Chandra has given lecture here on ecofeminism.
गुड। तो अभी ये आ गए हैं, तो आई जस्ट बिगिन विथ वन स्मॉल थिंग, एंड दैट
Yeah,
इज अ स्मॉल शॉर्ट फिल्म which is there. Okay,
sure,
yeah,
sure.
and it's only for 3 minutes. We can begin with that.
Yes, yes.
The movie is about how urbanization, everything is bringing about a change,
Yeah.
and it is there only for 3 minutes, not for a longer period of time.
Okay.
On Earth.
It's by Bandana Shiva.
No. It is by a foreign.
Okay. Wow, beautiful.
So this movie talks about that how this beautiful planet
Yes,
is
yes.
being ruined by us,
It
and
talks a lot.
it like in simple, short way it talks. And the basic question which always arises is that how I, as an individual, can make a difference. So it is to each and every one of us to work towards this end. And not only this, but there's another thing which also comes to the light is that when we speak of environmental ethics, it's also essential that how the governments of the world are dealing with the issue.
Yes.
And with that particular intention in mind, I thought that let me also speak to you about international environmental laws, or the various, rather than the laws, the summits which have taken place. And when we speak of this international environmental law, we find that uh, it is concerned with the attempt to regulate the population. Okay, so it is to regulate the population, and the I have got only half an hour. I'll try to complete it in 25 minutes. It is to regulate the population and depletion of natural resources. So there is a need for having a fine balance for it, with the intention of having a sustainable development. I will not go into the details of sustainable development because it is understood by each and every one of us. So, international environmental law, when we look at it, it becomes a branch of public international law that is created by the state for the state to govern problems that arise between states. So, when we talk about a neighboring state, so when we talk about India and Pakistan, India and Nepal, or for that matter, China, so the international environmental law will look into the nitty gritties, the issues, the complications, the problems which arise between the states. So it is to deal with environmental protection, and this typically takes place through bilateral or through multilateral agreements. So it will be either two countries or it will be many countries who are going to sign the international environmental treaties which are there. Now, what are the questions which they look into? They look into the questions such as population, biodiversity, climate change, something which we talk about it on a very regular basis, ozone depletion, poisonous and hazardous substances, and so on. So again, we find that just as science and technology has created environmental issues, similarly, the development in science and technology has also enhanced the possibility of understanding of environmental implications of various natural events as well as human activities. Like, look at the various parameters of it, like how the human activities, what the implications of it. So science and technology is helping us to understand the implications of it. Similarly, we find that throughout the globe there is an increase in multilateral environmental agreements, and this deals with various issues. For example, सबसे major issue जो है वो fresh water supplies के ऊपर है, या फिर साथ ही साथ ओजोन डिप्लीशन. अमेरिका में कोई डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है तो उसका इम्पैक्ट ऑस्ट्रेलिया को हो रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ ओजोन डिप्लीशन, या फिर क्लाइमेट चेंज, बायोडाइवर्सिटी वगैरह वगैरह जो है उसके बारे में हमें पता ही है. नाउ the first issue which came, or rather how did people or how did the governments of the world become aware of it? A little bit of the historical background to it. We find that the degradation of the ecosystems and exploitation of flora and fauna, they were the first environmental challenges to receive international attention. So this exploitation, for example, अगर हम सुंदरबंस को भी देखेंगे तो वहां जो उसका एक्सप्लॉयटेशन हो रहा है और उसकी वजह से किस तरह से जो ज्योग्राफी और जो क्लाइमेट है सुंदरबन के आसपास के एरिया का वो बदलाव हो रहा है. तो वो जब ऐसी चीजें जब सरकार की नजरों में आने लगी और इंटरनेशनल लेवल पर जब इसके ऊपर ध्यान आकर्षित होने लगा, तो हम देखते हैं कि ये दैट बिकेम द रीजन फॉर द फ्रेमिंग ऑफ द इंटरनेशनल एनवायरमेंटल लॉज. इसी तरह से वी फाइंड दैट देयर आर वेरियस अदर organizations which are working in regulating of how this aspect of environment can be understood, or rather it can be regulated with the help of environmental law. Now, why are we emphasizing on international environmental law? For the simple reason that it is crucial for dealing with specific environmental risk. So we are talking about specific environmental risk, as well as it is also to deal with incorporating long-term environmental protection into the global economy. As Robinson Crusoe की तरह हम लोग आइलैंड में तो नहीं रह सकते हैं. We all are dependent on each other for our existence. There's so much of trade which is taking place between different countries of the world. It is not an economy which is in a limited sense. It is a global economy. So for this global economy, international environmental laws also become important. International environmental laws, they attempt to create sustainable development. Now, this allows people. Now, this sustainable development is what not only for myself but for the future generation too. This allows people to enjoy a high quality of life so that we do not jeopardize with the future generations' quality of life. Like, we have some activists, for example, Greta Thunberg, wherein she's questioning people all like us and asking us that आप हमारे लिए क्या छोड़कर जा रहे हो? What kind of an environment you are leaving for us? What kind of a planet you are leaving for us? तो यहाँ पर ये जो है issues environmental laws जो है वो इसको deal करते हैं. However, one also has to understand that not all environmental hazards demand a worldwide response. There are certain issues which are there at the local level. For example, when we celebrate festivals and we are undertaking a law at the time of the celebration of festivals, if we are going in for hazardous decorations, so nothing will be done as far as the international environmental law is concerned. It is the local governments who will have to take a proactive step towards it. So in order that so that's something which we have to understand, that not all issues can become international issues. Now, when do the countries turn to environmental issues, sorry, when do the countries turn towards international cooperation? So there are certain reasons, there are certain places. सबसे पहले environmental impacts are transboundary. So if there is a pollution in the lakes in my country, and if it is going to affect the water supply of the other country, तो वो transboundary हो जाता है. Or it can be something like global. For example, climate change. Or secondly, it can be when we speak of an international activity. For example, then we all of us are aware about the elephant ivory, how elephants were being killed so that the ivory can be taken away from them. It became an international event, it became an international issue, an international problem. या फिर जब हम देखते हैं कि whales और slaughter होता है, yeah, because all these activities also contributes to environment harm. Or the third thing, it can be when we talk about international coordination or financial or technical support, so that it can result in action, in a positive action. Now, what is this kind of a positive action? For example, we talk about the global conservation of biological diversity. So in these conditions, we find that international environmental laws which are there, they are taken into consideration. There have been various summits over the world. सबसे पहले जो summit हुआ था, that was the World Conservation Strategy in 1980. Secondly, we had the World Charter of Nature 1983. Then we have the World Commission on Environment and Development, the Brundtland Commission. तो ये जो Brundtland report था, it proved as a catalyst. Why did it prove as a catalyst? Because it changed the direction of international negotiations on environmental degradation and conservation. Similarly, we also had Caring for the Earth, Strategy for Sustainable Living, 1991. We also had UN Conference on Environment and Development Earth Summit, 1992. I would first be talking about the, the first World Conference on the Environment, which resulted in the Stockholm Declaration. This was held in the year 1972. In the year 1972, United Nations Conference, which was held on environment in Stockholm, it took up the major environmental issues. And यहाँ पर ये जो Stockholm Declaration and action plan for the human environment जो था, they put forth several kinds of resolutions. This Stockholm Declaration had 26 principles, and this 26 principles placed environmental issues at the forefront of international concerns, and it marked the start of a dialogue. So it's very essential that mere understanding, conceptual understanding, is not going to help us. If we want to bring about change, it is essential that there have to be laws for it. In order to have laws for it, we need to have a dialogue. And so this dialogue began. Between whom? So we find that the world is divided into various categories. So we have the industrialized countries, we have the developing countries, and we have the countries which are lagging far behind in development. So the dialogue began between these countries as to how the economic growth, the pollution of the air, water, and oceans, as well as the well-being of the people, can be taken care of. Let us understand that there is something called as the polluter pays principle. Now, what is this polluter pays principle? It means that suppose if there is an activity, an environmental activity which is affecting the people of the other country. For example, जब हम भोपाल गैस ट्रेजेडी के बारे में बात करते हैं, तो यूनियन कार्बाइड had to pay the price of it. Why? They were the pollutants. They were the ones who were the polluters. So it's the polluters pay principles. Similarly, if an activity which is creating a greenhouse gases emissions, or it is resulting in ozone layer depletion, so that country will have to pay the price of it, rather than the people of the, or rather than the government, जहाँ पर कि इसके after effects हमको दिखाई दे रहे हैं. So this Stockholm Declaration speaks about it. Similarly, the declaration which is there, it emphasized the need for the nations to design integrative development plans. Now, this is something very essential. इसके पहले एकदम haphazard development हो रहा था. इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन होने के बाद बस ये था कि किस तरह से ज्यादा पैसा कमाया जाए. अब यहाँ पर आपको शिफ्ट दिखाई देगा, wherein they talk about that how the integrative development plans होने चाहिए, wherein we make use of science and technology in order to lessen air, land, and water pollution, as well as the impact of it on the human beings as well as on the environment. इस action plan के अंदर there were three main categories. One was the Global Environmental Assessment Program, environment management activities, and international measures to support, assess, and management activities. So we find that there were many countries which had adhered to the Stockholm Declaration. इसका जो main output रहा Stockholm Declaration का, वो ये रहा था कि it resulted in the creation of the United Nations Environment Program. UNEP was the outcome of the Stockholm Declaration. The next summit that we had was at Rio. So it is known as the Earth Summit. And in June 1992, more than 100 heads of the states which are there, they met at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And this was the first international Earth Summit. और यहाँ पर जो था, they addressed urgent problems of environmental protection and socio-economic development. So one has to understand, because of the paucity of the time, I can't go into the nitty-gritties. But please try to understand that it is talking about the socio-economic development at the global level. So the Earth Summit, which is there, it resulted resulted in the establishment of the Convention on Biological Diversity. One Earth, but biological diversity. And the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. ये जो है UNFCCC जो है, it is triple C. UNFCCC is a very important organization. तो यहाँ पर ये जो है UNFCCC जो है, this was the outcome of the Earth Summit which took place at Rio. And यहाँ पर this it also resulted in a treaty wherein it required, when you are signing a treaty means you have to adhere to the terms and conditions. So wherein it required that the nations have to reduce emissions of carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases. इसी तरह से the Convention on Biological Diversity जो है, it is a pact that requires government to inventory their plants and wild animals. अब अगर आप लोग न्यूज को बहुत क्लोजली फॉलो करते होंगे तो आपने देखा होगा कि बहुत सारे लाइक ट्राइबल बेल्ट के जो लोग हैं उनको पद्म भूषण दिया गया है या पद्मश्री प्रदान किया गया है, because these are the people who are trying to preserve the seeds, or they are having a very indigenous approach towards it. Now these people have been doing it very silently. Now the governments of the world जो है, the earth summit जो है, it is saying that it is essential that you have to make an inventory of the plants and wild animals, as well as you have to safeguard endangered species. तो हमारे यहाँ पर save the tiger project आ गया है, so you have to work towards the safeguarding of such kind of species. The Rio Declaration जो है, it states that long-term economic progress is only ensured. See, this is very important. Long-term economic progress is only ensured if it is linked with the protection of the environment. So you find that there is a fundamental shift wherein they say that सिर्फ पैसा 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 नहीं करना है, आपको environment का protection करेंगे तभी वो long term economic development हम उसको कह सकते हैं. If this is to be achieved, they say that then the nations must establish a new partnership involving governments, their people, and the key sectors of the society. So it is a participatory approach that they are emphasizing upon. Now, such objectives जो थे, they were set for the Kyoto Protocol, and this was superseded by the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, which came in 2015. Now, after this, we talk about the Kyoto Protocol. Now, this Kyoto Protocol, we find that there are currently 192 parties to it. It was entered, this treaty took place in the year 1997 and it was enforced in 2005. Now, what does this Kyoto Protocol talk about? So, we find that it is a United Nations agreement. And it again talks about to restrict and reduce greenhouse gases, and it talks about individually agreed upon limits. Now here we find that though this Kyoto Protocol was there, इसका main emphasis ये था कि जहाँ पर कि greenhouse emissions जो है, it states that the current high levels of greenhouse gas emissions are mainly in the atmosphere is mainly because of the developed countries. So they place the responsibilities on the developed countries. They wanted many countries to sign it. However, what happened was that the Kyoto Protocol, right from the very beginning, it was considered to be doomed. First, the USA did not sign it, and all of us are aware कि greenhouse gas emissions का सबसे ज़्यादा जो भी emission करता है वो है USA. तो वो इससे बाहर रहा, उसने इस ट्रीटी को साइन नहीं किया. दूसरा इन्होंने क्या किया था कि डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज जो है उनको इन्होंने इसके अंदर पार्टिसिपेंट नहीं माना. उन्होंने कहा कि नहीं, ये जो है ना, इनको हम सिग्नेटरीज नहीं करेंगे क्योंकि हम जो यहाँ पर करवाना चाह रहे हैं उन देशों से करवाना चाह रहे हैं जिन्होंने एक पर्टिकुलर टाइम पीरियड से पहले ग्रीन हाउस गैस इमिशंस की शुरुआत की थी. सो दे एक्सक्लूडेड डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज लाइक इंडिया, लाइक चाइना फ्रॉम द बाइंडिंग टारगेट्स, and the USA, which was there, it did not sign it up. So the Kyoto Protocol, though it was mentioned, but we find that it was a failure. फिर इसके बाद एक आता है बाली क्लाइमेट चेंज कॉन्फ्रेंस, BCCC. This was held in the year 2007. Now this Bali roadmap जो है, it becomes important. Why it becomes important? Because here it talks about how to mitigate climate change by reducing emissions. Similarly, it encourages clean technology transfer. That we don't talk about shutting down of the units. We talk about replacement of the instruments. We talk about using the technology which will result in clean technology transfers. Similarly, it also talks about adapting to climate change repercussions such as floods and droughts. It also talks about funding adaptation and mitigation measures. तो यहाँ पर जो है एक थोड़ा सा शिफ्ट आपको दिखाई देगा, और वो ये था कि बाली कॉन्फ्रेंस में it talks about how financing for underdeveloped nations should take place so that they can combat deforestation. देखिए, अर्बनाइजेशन जब होता है तो डिफॉरेस्टेशन होने ही वाला है. तो यहाँ पर ये कहते हैं कि अंडर डेवलप्ड नेशंस को अगर डिफॉरेस्टेशन से कॉम्बैटिंग करना है तो उसके लिए उनको फंडिंग जो है वो हमें देना पड़ेगा. So they came to this kind of an agreement and a recognition. So this is something which is very important. Over the years we find that Bali conference होने के बाद there were large scale, क्योंकि इनकी जो activities है या इनके जो conditions थे कि how financing for the underdeveloped countries should take place, it resulted in many demonstrations throughout the world. And these demonstrations were led by indigenous groups, and it talks about social forestry and so on and so forth. So Bali Climate Change Conference was held in the year 2007. Now, यहाँ पर I come straight to the Paris Agreement, and this agreement which took place in the year 2015, and we find that Obama was an important person in it. Obama agreed for this Paris Agreement. Trump came into power. He said that nothing doing about this agreement. We are not going to be a part of it. या फिर उसके बाद जब हम बाइडेन आए तो फिर बाइडेन again says that they would be a part of the Paris Agreement. So what is this agreement? Let us have a small understanding of it. So the Paris Agreement which is there, it is a legally binding international treaty on climate change. This was adopted by 196 parties, which means many countries, and it came into force on 4th November 2016. क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल को अगर आप देखेंगे तो वो क्या फोकस करता है कि हाउ द रिड्यूसिंग एमिशंस ऑफ ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस टू 5.2%, दैट इज बिफोर द 1990 लेवल्स. पेरिस एग्रीमेंट क्या है, वो ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस एमिशंस के ऊपर बात नहीं कर रहा है, वो ये उनका फोकस शिफ्ट हो गया है. अब फोकस शिफ्ट होने पर वो ये कहते हैं कि वी हैव टू स्टॉप the global average temperature from rising for more than 2 degrees Celsius and above the pre-industrial limit. तो उनका फोकस एकदम क्लियर है कि ग्लोबल वार्मिंग की वजह से जो हमारा टेम्परेचर बढ़ रहा है उसको अभी हमें स्टॉप करना पड़ेगा, जबकि ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस में वो क्या कह रहे हैं कि जो ऑलरेडी बढ़ चुका है उसको कम करना है. तो यहाँ पर वो जो डिफरेंस ऑफ आउटलुक है ना, दैट हैज मेड ऑल द मोर डिफरेंस. And then again it says that how we can strengthen the country's ability to deal with the impacts of climate change and support in their efforts. So it is not leaving anyone in isolation. It understands that every country have their own issues, their own problems, and therefore there is a need to strengthen those countries to deal with the issues of climate change. Now here we find that कहने के लिए ऐसे कहा जाता है कि it was a change in the paradigm of climate diplomacy. क्योंकि यहाँ पर उन्होंने जो काम किया है या पेरिस एग्रीमेंट को अगर आप देखेंगे तो इट इज अ बॉटम अप अप्रोच. बॉटम अप अप्रोच का मतलब क्या है कि जहाँ पर कि हमने एमिशन टारगेट्स जो हैं वो सिलेक्ट कर दिए हैं और कहा है कि एमिशन टारगेट्स आपका इतना ही होना चाहिए, प्लस बॉटम अप अप्रोच है तो टॉप डाउन प्रोविजंस भी है. टॉप डाउन प्रोविजंस किस तरह से है कि there has to be an accountability, there has to be a reporting, and there has to be a review also. So it's like the nations have to work on both the approaches, top down and the bottom up approach. अब इसमें से what have we achieved so far if we ask this question? Paris Agreement 2015 का ही है. So we find that although just a minute, yeah. So we find that climate change which is there, it needs to be massively increased. Actions जो है इसके लिए we have to massively increase to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement. तो यहाँ पर हम देखते हैं कि more and more countries, more and more regions, more and more cities, more and more companies जो हैं, they are establishing carbon neutrality targets. So it's not only the countries, it is also the cities. It is not only the cities, it is also the companies. तो small unit भी जो है ना वो यहाँ पर पार्टिसिपेट करने लगे हैं. पहले जो हुए थे एग्रीमेंट्स उसमें हम सिर्फ देशों की तरफ देख रहे थे, अब यहाँ पर हम छोटे से छोटे कंपोनेंट की तरफ भी ध्यान दे रहे हैं और जहाँ पर कि हम कार्बन न्यूट्रलिटी टारगेट्स के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. सिमिलरली वी आर ऑल्सो एम्फसाइजिंग ऑन जीरो कार्बन सॉल्यूशंस. तो ये जीरो कार्बन सॉल्यूशंस किस तरह से, फॉर एग्जांपल किसी जमाने में रेफ्रिजरेटर्स जो हैं दे वर कंसीडर्ड एज द बिगेस्ट emissions of CFC. Now you find that the refrigerators are CFC free. तो इस तरह से we talk about zero carbon solutions. So how these solutions can be made, how, like, and you come across so many things which are taking place. How much of recycling of plastic products are taking place? Shoes are getting manufactured, roads are getting built, and so on and so forth. तो यहाँ पर हम जीरो कार्बन सॉल्यूशंस के बारे में बातचीत कर रहे हैं, which wherein we find that it has become very competitive across economic sectors, which represents 25% of the emissions. So यहाँ पर we find that it is resulting in a lot of new business opportunities. So basically, when we talk about all the zero carbon solutions, it means that there has to something needs to be come, something needs to come. तो न्यू बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज जो है वो हमारे सामने अभी हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि आना शुरू कर दिया है. It is estimated that by 2030, zero carbon solutions could be competitive in sectors representing over 70% of global emissions. Possibility ये कहा जा रहा है 2030 नहीं तो कम से कम 2040 तक तो ये हो ही सकता है. Now, since I have only 2 minutes left, I would say that environmental protections जो हैं, so environmental pressures जो हैं, they are going to rise. Now, environmental research जो है, it also talks about how these laws which are there, they will play an important role. The summits which are there, they will play an important role. And we will have to understand the mechanism that drive and link environmental systems. We also have to develop new novel tools and techniques for understanding and managing environmental challenges. देखिए कई बार ना हम लोग ये सवाल करते हैं कि हम कितने जिम्मेदार हैं इसके लिए, हमारे ऊपर आप कितनी जवाबदारी डाल रहे हैं, सरकार क्या कर रही है इसके लिए. तो सरकारें बहुत कुछ कर रही हैं जो कि हमारे देखने में नहीं आता है. और वो ये है कि हमें बहुत सारे टेक्निक्स जो हैं, बहुत सारे न्यू कॉम्पिटिटिव टूल्स जो हैं, उन सब का इस्तेमाल जो है किया जा रहा है in order to manage environmental challenges. And at the same time, there also has to be an emphasis for long-term collecting and transmission of reliable environmental data. Now, this is exactly what I had emphasized in my first talk also. That reliable environmental data देना ये हम सबकी जिम्मेदारी और हमारी जवाबदारी बन जाती है, which is associated with all core components of research. Now, with this, I come to the parting messages that when we, we must have the courage to not look away. That is something as an individual we can. We must have the courage to not look away. All life and all harms are connected. As I said, that everything is interconnected. Similarly, we must have the courage to confront our systematic challenges. So here it talks about being ethical. How much you can develop your ethical component कि जहाँ पर हम challenge कर सकते, क्योंकि यहाँ पर courage की बात हो रही है. So we must have the courage to confront our systematic challenges. We must also have the courage to acknowledge and act upon the science. And at the same time, सबसे जो last है बहुत ही important है, we must have the courage to care. Care is something that is not taking place. All of us are becoming more and more self-centered. तो फिर हमारे पास ये courage होना चाहिए कि हमारे पास ये courage होना चाहिए कि we care. Okay, so we have to move from even sympathy and care for the others. So thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Namita ji, for beautifully presenting very
No, I actually ran through this in half an hour.
Yeah, you have I can understand uncomfortability that you are facing, because you have a lot of things to say, but because of time constraint,
Yes.
you just reduced and skipped some of the points. But the way the point has been analyzed by you, that is very much rich, and it gives a new horizon to the research on environmental philosophy. Specifically, when you talked about the concept of sustainable development as it is developed by at Rio de Janeiro, the Rutland report, that to meet the need of the present without compromising the need and necessity of the future generation. That's why there is a distinction between sustainability and sustainable development, which is already exemplified by Amartya Sen and Bernard Williams.
Yes.
And you see, when you are talking about sustainability, whether it is nature that we are going to sustain, or whether it is future generation we are going to sustain, that's a question. And that question, the answer to the question results into Kyoto Protocol and all global climate change, the I mean the summit. And also there is a also we are talking about also population explosion, you know. And you, if you go to the historical development of environmental philosophy, you can find three books which are responsible. And one of the book is the first book is Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. The second is Paul Ellis' book Population Bomb.
Yes.
And the third is that United Nations Development Environment and Development Program in 1972. And we are celebrating Earth Day in 22nd of April in each and every year. So these are the historical data where environmental philosophy and sustainable development goes hand in hand. But now the policymakers, they forget about philosophers. I mean, when Plato says that philosophy is philosopher's king. But the policymaker from Western country, they forget about this principle-making bodies. I mean, there is a distinction between making a decision and justifying the decision. And these policymakers are just forgetting that justification. And these all moral philosophers are not been invited or not been isolated. I mean, they're isolated. That's why they are writing, and hundreds and thousands books are published, papers are published in journal, and specifically on environmental philosophy and sustainable development, so that it can reach to the policymakers. They can understand. But because when in 1990 Rolston founded the International Society for Environmental Ethics, the objective was to teach the policymakers that these are the hazards, that when you are making a law, you just make a distinction between making a law and justifying the law. And that is missing from Kyoto Protocol. That is missing from United Nations Development Environment and Development Program, and the recently Global Climate Summit. The summit programs. But thankfully, because of this pandemic, for last 2 years, I think nature has taken its own course of action. That's why this year, though it is 43-degree temperature in Lucknow, but in my area, during the month of June, it is 38 degree, but this year it is 32 degree, and it is all raining, and we need a very soft blanket at the night. So anyway, these are some of the questions that I mean some of the points he has raised. Now I request to be very briefly, because Professor Basav Choudhury is waiting to join. Very briefly, one or two single line questions or clarification from my participants. Any questions, Abhishek, Rekhaji, or somebody else, if at all? Because Namita ji has already uh, explained everything, and from 10:30 onwards to 1,
Yes,
vocal
yes, it
code
is
is
very
vocal
clear, very clear.
yeah her vocal
Yes,
code is
she has made us
emphasized.
so clear. It was so
Yeah, thank
vivid
you,
presentation.
Thank
thank you, thank you,
thank
thank
you.
you, everybody. So now a formal thanks to Professor Namita Nimmalgarji, who happened to be my close friend, and definitely we'll
Thank
be meeting.
you. Thank you.
And
Because
on behalf of ICPR, and being an academic coordinator of this workshop, I extend my heartfelt thanks to you for joining from all along from Mumbai from 10:30 to 1. You know, for a teacher, continuous speaking and continuous exercise of vocal cord, that creates a problem further. But I cannot provide you a cup of tea. But please
you can
accept.
Swiggy, Zomato, कुछ भी कर सकते हैं, कोई टेंशन नहीं, मैं आपका
But
एड्रेस
but you accept my virtual tea. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, please check your inbox.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Namita ji.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank
much.
you for giving
Thank
me the
you.
opportunity to come and
Thank you.
speak to all of you. and to the participants for your questions, because that really makes me think in the other direction too. So
Yeah.
thank you each and everyone,
Thank
and see you
Thank
all.
you, Namita ji. Thank you, Namita ji, for your enlightening lecture.
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I will log out now. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Namaskar.
So, my dear participants, I think Professor Basu Chaudhary is waiting. Somebody has to allow him to join. Uh, Durgesh ji, ICPR Academic Center. Can you hear me? Durgesh ji. Jaishankar ji. Can you hear me? Dear scholars, I have already circulated the PowerPoint presentation of Professor Basu Chaudhary in the WhatsApp group. That will be beneficial for your future research. And sir.
Professor Bodhi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you properly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
very,
So nice seeing you. So nice seeing you.
very nice to see you, sir, at though virtually at Lucknow, but
Yeah.
at 8:30 p.m. you are arriving here.
Yeah, yeah,
So we
yeah,
are
yeah.
very much eager to receive you at the airport and to listen to
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
tomorrow.
Every day. That's okay. That's okay. Thank you. Thank you. So many
Yeah.
people, so many respected teachers are present over here. So many. Dr. Chatterjee Bhattacharya
Chatterjee,
is also
yes,
there.
Dr. Chatterjee is there, sir.
Namaskar. Dr. Chatterjee Bhattacharya is also there. Namaskar. Namaskar.
Uh, Everybody has joined, I think. So let me start a formal
Yeah.
note.
How
This
many
way.
are there, Professor Bodhi?
Sir, initially we have 23, but because of some unprecedented
Yeah.
incident, it has been reduced to 20.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And you'll be happy to know that all participants are selected on the basis of their PhD in environmental ethics, and
Oh.
also some of the beautiful publication in related areas in environmental ethics.
Oh, excellent, excellent,
That's
excellent.
why we have a chota parivar, sukhi parivar.
Oh, excellent, 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 excellent. You look
Okay,
also
sir.
very good, Professor Bodhi. You look very good.
Thank you, sir, for your
Thank
comment.
you. Thank you.
And let me go for a formal
Yeah.
welcome to Professor Chaudhary. You know, I extend my heartfelt welcome to Professor Basub Chaudhary to this 7 days national workshop and on environmental philosophy and sustainable development Indian perspective. We have been listening to Professor Namita Nimbalkarji from Mumbai University, She has talked about Kyoto Protocol, global climatic change, and the climate summit, and all along start with tribal culture of environmental philosophy. She has talked a lot of things from 10:30 to 1. Now let us listen to Professor Basuf Chaudhary. But before requesting Professor Chaudhary, who was the Honorable Vice Chancellor of West Bengal State University, Barasat at Calcutta, uh, uh, I just let me say a few lines, very few lines, because Professor Chaudhary never makes him exposed. He is a very peace-loving person. He never say anything about him. But I requested him, sir, give me a brief biodata. But he has given me only 7 to 8 lines in WhatsApp. This is the glimpse of a beautiful people with a wider heart. So, welcome to this city of Nawab, sir, this Lucknow and ICPR. Let me say a few words about Professor Chaudhary. Professor Basuk Chaudhary was a professor of chemical engineering of University of Calcutta. He was a registrar of the university and the vice chancellor of West Bengal State University, Calcutta, Barasat, Calcutta. He has published more than 60 papers in national and international journals. He has also published more than 60 newspapers articles in leading national newspapers. He is presently a senior director in higher education, Kalyan Bharati Trust. And I'm so happy that Professor Chaudhary has already circulated the PowerPoint presentation, and I have already circulated it to the participants. This PowerPoint presentation will be very much helpful for further research, and I'll be much more benefited to listen to Professor Chaudhary. And now I request Professor Chaudhary to present his deliberation. Now, sir, please.
Okay. Uh, First of all, Professor Bodhi has given a very nice introduction of mine, and on the platform, I find my old friend Dr. Madhuchanda Chatterjee Bhattacharya. Professor Bodhi is a very nice gentleman, and I have the privilege of knowing him for a very long time. He's a very nice gentleman, and he's a very committed academician, and he has also adorned the chair of registrar of North Bengal University, one of the very old universities in the state of West Bengal. And he is a very committed academician, and he has been doing very well in his subject philosophy. Dr. Madhuchanda Chatterjee Bhattacharya is also there, and I have known her for a very long time. She is also a very committed academician, and in fact, all of you are joining this program as basically on this FDP, where not only the objective is to know the subject of environmental science, but also to see how multidisciplinarity helps, interdisciplinarity helps. In our subjects, we say environment is our subject, but the point is, environment is everyone's subject. Everyone talks about environment, everyone talks about our ecosystem, everyone knows also little bit, because the Supreme Court of India has ruled that right from small age, young age, everyone should study environment, everyone should know environment. So everyone is talking about purivesh and all those things, because that is very important. The atmosphere and the environment in which people are growing, that is particularly important for all of us. Now, why are we talking about environment? There are so many subjects, and you are all philosophers. Basically, you are talking about environmental philosophy. Now, if you talk about environmental philosophy, what is not present in this slide, I would like to tell you that Rabindranath in Shantiniketan, and many of you have been to Shantiniketan. If you have not been, you just see. Rabindranath was talking about classroom, and those classrooms were under the trees. Under the trees, the teachers will come and the teachers will discuss, and there are books, and if you go, you will be able to see that students are sitting, small boys and girls, they are sitting and they are listening to the teachers. And if you see the old pictures of Shantiniketan, you will find that persons like Khiti Mohan Sen, philosopher himself, Khiti Mohan Sen and all others, they are teaching at the foot of trees, all over, all around the trees. You will remember something like, remember the old epic, which Professor Podi will know much better than me, that, Shakuntala is sitting with her colleagues, her friends, with deer and other animals, moving around. And when you talk about that particular, epic, or that particular, what you call novel, or the great writing of Kalidas, and when you come down and come to Rabindranath, you will find that there is some amount of continuity in the history. Continuity. What is that continuity? That continuity is that we have loved to be in presence of trees, in presence of water, in presence of water bodies, in presence of forest, and this and that. If you see our epics, Ramchandra, Sri Ram, Ramchandra is going to Bonavash. Why? Why? To know why he is going to forest. Is it, a modern explanation? Maybe I do not know whether this explanation has been done. That Ramchandra wanted to know what a forest looks like sitting in the capital, because the forest, if you want to be the ruler of a large land where there are forests, there are oceans, there are water bodies, there are animals and plants and of various types. When you really be the ruler, you do not become a ruler of only men. You are not only a ruler of only men and women, you are also ruler of all the different animals and plants which are also staying over there, because we are talking about an ecosystem. An ecosystem is basically a combination of plants and animals and human beings, where there is basically a coexistence. There is no competition, there is coexistence. What is the now when we come to the modern age, where the industry and all these things come, and where I have also worked in industry for some years, so I know where the motive is basically profit. You have to earn money out of your materials. When it comes to this, the idea of the age old philosophy that India has thrived on, that somehow is contested, that somehow becomes different from the age old practice, where we will be able to live together with animals, plants, and other things, whatever is present is in nature. Indian philosophy has always talked about coexistence in nature and be with nature, not compete with nature, not control nature. What we have tried to control nature. Think of, I'll give you an example. Many of you have studied this subject, maybe, river researchers, those who are doing research on rivers, you will find that large dams, you know about Narmada Dam. The large dams are being created over the rivers in order to get hydroelectricity. Now, what the hydroelectricity does? Hydroelectricity is definitely better than electricity out of thermal power plants, because hydroelectricity is less polluting. Fine, perfectly all right. But what does hydroelectricity do? Hydroelectricity, when you are trying to get hydroelectricity, you are creating a dam, you are artificially trying to create a reservoir, and from that reservoir you are getting water, and allowing that water to pass through a turbine, and based on that you are getting, based on the principle of physics, you are getting power for yourself. Power is very important. Power is important for all of us, because without power it will not be possible to continue this lecture. So power is very important, and we know how powerful power is. But the problem with this is that, that the tribal culture that you just now heard, all these culture will be totally disturbed and destroyed, and the Indian population, the inherent Indian population, It is a very difficult question now, and the philosophers will be able to know. I will raise maybe more questions as compared to the giving answers. Now, who is really indigenous Indian population? Who was in India? Do I mean? Am I an Indian in true sense of term, or the tribals who have been staying in places like Dandakarana or places like Narmada, those areas? They are the real Indians. The tribals are the real Indians because they have the culture of India and they have stayed with the Indian soil for more than 3,000, 4,000 years. Maybe I am not that old. Maybe my blood is not that old as compared to their blood. So the point is they have got some kind of life, they have got some kind of environmental sustenance. They have been able to stay with the environment, stay with the plant and animal, and they have stayed very nicely with the birds. Maybe birds come and sit on them. The birds fly away from the cities, but the birds come over there, and this kind of combination, this kind of coexistence. And in order to understand this coexistence, even a philosopher has to travel and has to go to a forest, see the forest, understand the plants, understand the name of the plant and the know the name of the plant and know the name of the what is the scientific name of the plant, and we'll try to know what it is, what kind of plant, and why a particular bird likes that plant. And then the philosophy of coexistence for a very long time, how it has developed, and that is what we want from our philosophers, because it is basically a combination of the modern science and the philosophy, and we may find something very very interesting, because the idea is that multidisciplinarity or interdisciplinarity is giving you very large dimension and ideas about research and teaching. So many things we are learning from books, we are not learning from our own experience and from our own ideas. That is what is important. Now, what has really happened? What has really happened, after industrial revolution? You see the notes and you see the slides, and you will find one or two points only. But the point is, as I speak, I will be able to tell you that this industrial revolution. After industrial revolution, what has really happened? The speed has become very important for us. We want to move from one place to other place in breakneck speed, right? Earlier it was not so. Earlier, we used to depend on vehicle. Why? My question will come. Why? The horses and the goats, they were domesticated. The first animal that was domesticated was goat. Horse was domesticated because people used to use horse for warfare. In different battles, horses were very important. Elephants were important. They were our friends. We used to depend on them. They used to depend on us. Today, we are not depending on them. We are depending on tanks. We are depending on jets. We are depending on rockets. We are depending on different things. And the importance of the elephants and the importance of the horses, the kind of coexistence and the dependence that we had grown over at that particular time, that is totally gone. And because of that, we really do not have any relationship. So what is philosophy? Philosophy is basically trying to understand very complex questions of life. How you are associated with something that does not exist. For example, when you talk about God, I do not know what God is. I have never seen God. I have seen some temples. Maybe in the temple, I have seen some idols. Maybe some, we call it putul. I have seen some idols, and I have learned that this is Lord Rama's idol, or this is Lord Krishna's idol, and things like that. Have I seen? I have not seen. But I can see all the good properties of Lord Rama or Lord Krishna or whatever prophet you call. If you imbibe in your heart and try to find a combination, in Indian philosophy, what do we say? Indian philosophy, we say that God exists in everything. God exists in everything means what? God exists in you. God exists in Roshan Singh. God exists in Srishti Singh. God exists in Prasenjit Draw. God exists in Divakar Moria. God exists in me. But how do I understand God exists? How do I understand that You are not different from me, or I am not different from you. And if it God exists in animals and plants, then I have to understand that even the animal and the plant that is existing, that is also like me, and they have life, and they have life to, they have right to exist, they have right to live. And when in the name of modernization and to create real estate, you destroy the forest, and you say that forest is God, because for some Uttaranchal, forest is God, was God. You know the Chipko movement, and you know what it is. So the point is, now forest is God, and you are killing forest, you are destroying forest in order to create your real estate, and you will have beautiful houses, maybe 40 floors, 50 floors, 80 floors, 100 floors, many things will come. Point is, what then, there is some kind of dichotomy. What is that dichotomy? Dichotomy is coming because what I am trying to understand from philosophy, age old philosophy, what I am being taught by modern science, there is some kind of, dichotomy. I am not really understanding. I am not really at home to really resolve this crisis. There is a crisis. This is a crisis of thinking. This is not a crisis of, Rabindranath has talked about crisis of civilization. This is a crisis. Mahatma Gandhi has said something very interesting. Nature has given us everything to satisfy our need, but not enough to satisfy our greed. Nature has given us that much with which we can satisfy our need, but we cannot satisfy our greed. But what is our greed? I will have one house, then two houses, then three houses, then four houses, then, five cars, then, fossil fuel, then, everything, then, I'll have the empire, and everything will be mine. I am the ruler. And here the question comes, that how do you become the ruler? You will have plants, you will have animals, you will have everything. Not only that, you will have power, so that you will have a chemical plant, refineries, and you know about Mathura refinery. Mathura refinery is not very far from you. Mathura refinery is one of the largest refineries where from we get our different fuels. The point is that fuel is used to run your car. That fuel is used to run your aeroplane. That fuel is used to run your vehicles and tractors. Point is, if you continue this way, you will find that you will end up all the resources. So the point is, there is some kind of caution. What the philosophers are talking about, what Professor Kodi is trying, why this entire seminar of 7 days, why this FDP of 7 days? Because it is basically word of caution. What caution? That unbridled competition, and trying to control everything, that causes a big problem. And when you talk about it, when you really talk about it, you feel that you are not doing justice to the entire environment. Why you are not doing justice? If you use fuel for your car, immediately you get carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide comes to air, and carbon dioxide pollutes. How does it pollute? Before industrial revolution, before industrial revolution, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the gas was 290 ppm. Forget about ppm, it was 290. Today this is standing at 410. People are saying that if it goes to 430, 440, the earth's temperature will go up by 1.5 degrees centigrade. All these are known to you. You know that if more carbon dioxide means more increase in temperature increase in temperature, atmospheric temperature, and more temperature means your your glaciers will melt, and if glaciers melt, then what will happen? The ocean layer will rise, and if the ocean layer will rise, what will happen? The cities around will get inundated. So Calcutta will get inundated. Calcutta will come underwater. Bombay will come underwater. Mexico will come underwater. California will come underwater, and that is what it is. That they will come underwater. So in environment, what is the most important? Most important, the philosophers, because in any FDP there should be some takeaway from any lecture. There must be some takeaway. What is the takeaway? When you teach a student, at the end of the class, he will remember one or two sentences. He will remember 5 words, nothing else. If he can remember 5 words, that is the takeaway. What is the takeaway? Takeaway is that, or whatever I have spoken so far, the takeaway is that the crisis that we are really facing today, because of air pollution, because of water pollution, because of soil pollution. If you go to any place in Delhi, in Kolkata, in Bombay, you will find plastics flying, and everywhere there are dumping grounds and lots of plastics. What is basically happening? Soil pollution is taking place. If you go to water, everywhere you are drinking water by buying water, right? You are getting water bottle, you are buying water, purchasing water. You go to any place in Western country, you will find, tap water can be taken without any problem. So what have we done? We have polluted our water. We have the Ganges. We are saying Namami Gange. We are saying that, we are worshipping our Ganges. We say, we have the slokas, all of you know, Madhubata Ritayate, Madhuk Sharanti Shindava, Madhirna Shantoshadi, Madhunakta Mutoshasha, Madhuvat Partibam Rajo, Madhudodostunopi. All these, Professor Pudi knows better than me. I am not an expert in the Sanskrit or things like that. But the point is, Madhubata Ritayate meaning what? Beautiful breeze is blowing. Why did I make that breeze bad? By doing this kind of practice, by burning fossil fuel. It is said that civilization has been polluted right from the day man has learned to use fire. At that time, it was necessary. But environment, whole Earth's process, if you really see, there was a balance. What we really did, we came off balance and we could not keep this balance. There is an imbalance. And that imbalance is now forcing people, human beings, to really think of environment. Take it from me, going by our personality, a man like me will never think of a rhinoceros in the area where Professor Podi lives and does his teaching in North Bengal. The point is, I will not think of any rhinoceros, or I will not think of any wild animal over there unless I am threatened. Today, I am threatened. Today, human beings are threatened because I have done enormous harm to the environment. Today, there is no bird. Because of that, how the butterflies, the flowers are coming, blooming, because the butterflies move from one flower to other flower, and you are getting fruits and things like that. We are creating a situation where the butterfly population is going down. In fact, in my university, last university where I worked, there the roads were made of concrete and pitch and things like that. Some teachers of zoology department, they were very angry with me, and they said that what wrong did you do? The roads were perfectly all right. The butterfly population will go down because of these roads. Happens. In the name of development, what we have done, we will go, we will move fast. So that is why, the animals that we used to depend on to go, just like, bullock cart and things like that, that was some kind of relationship. That was some kind of, civilization. Now we wanted to move fast. We wanted to make things cheaper. We wanted to do things in different ways. And in the process, we became a consuming society. We became consumers. See, the point is, you will find, that in old days, the clothes of village people, rural people, and the urban people, they were very, very different. Today, you will find that the rural people and the urban people, they are having the similar types of clothes. They are having the similar types of telephones. They are having the same kind of lifestyle. What does it mean? It means that a large number of consumers have already been created, and they are trying to consume. They are trying to consume air. They are trying to consume water. They are trying to consume. They are trying to have good life, fast life. And in the process, what has happened? The environment is largely being polluted. I am not to blame. You are not to blame. Collectively, we have to blame ourselves. Collectively, we have to understand. Collectively, we have to see why things are happening. This whole environment science is, or environment philosophy is extremely difficult subject. Why? Because if you do one thing, one small thing, that has an effect and you do not know how. I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story. In 1940, a material called chlorofluorocarbon, CFC, very good material, chlorofluorocarbon, was developed in US. A company called DuPont, that DuPont company, they developed this thing and a beautiful chemical. Why? It is a wonder chemical. Why wonder chemical? You know, people got prizes, and I think that gentleman got Nobel Prize also. Prizes. Why? Because this material is non-toxic, non-corrosive. It does not have any problem with your biological system. It is used in various materials, and you know, it is used in your asthma canister. Asthma canister, asthalin. You take that, you know, that inhaler. That inhaler is having that material. So in up to 1980, 1985, this material was doing great business. 40 years, it was, you know, wonder chemical, chlorofluorocarbon. What happened to chlorofluorocarbon? It was found at that point of time in 80s that, you know, in the Antarctica region there is a hole in the ozone layer. What is the meaning of hole in the ozone layer? You know, our stratosphere, Earth's top atmosphere, that contains ozone, and that ozone does not allow large amount of UV radiation from the sun to come to the earth. What will happen if UV radiation comes? What is so great about it? UV radiation, if it comes, it will cause skin cancer and it will cause cataract. It will cause skin cancer and it will cause cataract of eyes. And people in Western world, particularly in North America and Canada, they used to have this. They started getting this melanoma. What is the meaning of melanoma? Melanoma is basically skin cancer. So now people started thinking, what really happened? What went wrong? So they found that, you know, there is some problem with the ozone layer at the top of the earth. We are not seeing, but you know, from 20 kilometers above the earth, this ozone layer is causing a lot of problem, and there has been thinning of ozone layer. You know, the layer, if the layer is, you know, say 1 kilometer long, suppose I'm just giving example, that has become 500 meters. So people started thinking why it is happening. So they start the research started, because you know, Western life is more important than Indian life. Western life is more important than Eastern life. So the point is, you know, Western people are having melanoma. Western people are having skin cancer or this cataract. That is a bad news. Because it is a bad news, they started working on it. And what they did, they started research, and they found that this wonder chemical chlorofluorocarbon, wonder chemical that was discovered in 1940, is the culprit in doing this. And what it is doing? Chlorofluorocarbon is non-toxic, non-corrosive. It vaporizes. If you just put chlorofluorocarbon, it goes into air. But it is not. You cannot destroy chlorofluorocarbon. It has a long half-life. Half-life means if you have 1 gram of chlorofluorocarbon, you will get 0.5 gram of chlorofluorocarbon only after 112 years. So that chlorofluorocarbon lives here. So what it does, because of the wind motion of the earth, this chlorofluorocarbon somehow goes up and sits on the polar ice cap. Polar ice cap. That means on ice, it sits over there and it stays there. And when polar ice cap, you know, there it is 6 months, the sun is shining, and the 6 months you do not get the sun. So what happens? Then when the sun comes, you know, the ice starts melting, and as the ice starts melting, one chlorofluorocarbon, you know, goes into air. Then second chlorofluorocarbon goes into air, and what it does? One chlorofluorocarbon can destroy 100,000, 1 lakh ozone molecules. And the reason is that because you are using chlorofluorocarbon on the Earth's surface, that is going to the top of the Earth's surface, and that is staying in the polar ice cap, causing this ozone layer to destroy, and go to thin, to gradually decrease in decrease in the thickness. And what happens is that this causes a big problem with this ozone layer, and naturally the UV radiation comes through it, and more it acts as UV radiation filter. And if more and more UV radiation comes to Earth, what will happen to you? It is natural that you will have problems. So the point is, this environment subject is extremely difficult. What you are doing today, you will not know what you are doing today. People, the environment also will not know what harm is being done. Maybe this harm will come to surface, or will be seen 40 years from now, 50 years from now. That is why environment science is extremely important. You do not know what will happen today. You do not know what your action that you are doing will affect the system, overall system, and you will realize only after a very very long time that the people have done very badly. See the Ganges. Think about the Ganges. The Ganges was so very pure 100 years ago. What went wrong with the Ganges? Clean Ganga project, Namami Ganga project, and many, many projects. But you see, if you come from Uttar Pradesh to Kolkata by river, you will find a large number of industries are throwing materials into the Ganges. Liquid waste, solid waste, many other waste are coming to the Ganges, and the Ganges are accepting. We are bathing in the Ganges. We are washing our clothes in the Ganges. We are using many other things. We are doing many other things in the Ganges. And what happens? The Ganges, the carrying capacity of the Ganges that had been 100 years ago, with the increase in population now, the Ganges cannot have that carrying capacity. So the point is, you must change your lifestyle in order that the Ganges does not become polluted. There is a science also in it, what is known as photolysis. What is photolysis? On the surface of water, when Ganges is having a large surface area. Surface area means big area through which the Ganges is flowing. So when the Ganges is flowing like this, the sunlight is coming on the Ganges, on water, and it is splitting the UV light in water, in light, UV light coming from the sun, that is splitting water into hydroxyl radical. I am not showing you this because this is chemistry. Hydroxyl radical and hydrogen. This hydroxyl radical is a very potent oxidizing agent. What is the meaning of oxidation? Any material that is coming into the Ganges, any bad material that is coming into the Ganges, that hydroxyl radical works on it and destroys and makes it pure. Now this hydroxyl radical, also generation of hydroxyl radical, and the sun's light, and that has also capacity. A large number of people, think about it. I'll give you example. Between 1900 to 2000, or 1880 to 2000, in 120 years, 1880 to 2000, in 120 years, the Earth's population increased by 1 billion. And between 2000 to 2012, the Earth population increased by 1 billion. So what happened over 120 years? The same thing happened in 12 years. What happened in 120 years? Same thing happened in 12 years. So think about the large population. What will this population do? They were doing the same practice as was being done. Naturally, the Ganges is not having the carrying capacity, and we are exceeding the carrying capacity of nature. Because we are exceeding the carrying capacity of nature, what is really happening? We are worshipping the Ganges, but the point is, we are really doing big, very bad things in the Ganges. During the Durga Puja, the large number of idols which are thrown into the Ganges in the last 2-3 years, the West Bengal Pollution Control Board has taken steps in order that those things, those idols, they are taken out immediately and kept on the side of the river, so that the river does not get polluted. So the point is, any action that you are doing, anything that you are doing, that is causing a change in the environment. Small change. But when a large number of people, 140 crores people are doing this in this country, think about it, the total change, and you will, as philosophers, you will be able to understand how this change will affect. So now, Professor Pudi, is it becoming good or it is becoming bad?
No, no. I'm listening very carefully.
Okay. So the point is, these are the reasons why the environment has become really bad and toxic for all of us, and it is necessary that we must clean the environment. And whether it is chemistry, whether it is physics, whether it is any subject, any philosophy, Bengali, whatever subject, Urdu, Hindi, any subject you talk about, usually it is not a question of subject, it is a question of people. People are interested in environment. It is not a question of subject, it is a question of persons who are rational human beings, who are logical human beings. They are under threat. And this threat, if the flood comes, it will not distinguish between, rich and poor. If in Uttarakhand, the landslide that happened, and the Kedarnath, and that temple got destroyed and things like that, what happened? That nature does not really care. Nature works according to nature's rule. Nature works according to nature's whim. And if you really try to control nature, nature has ability to really come up with tremendous amount of backlash. What is the meaning of backlash? That you will see what is happening today. The temperatures in different cities, that is crossing 45, 48, 49. Earlier it was not so. Today, even in Western countries where they did not understand summer, they are having air conditioners. So the point is, the thing is, if you really try to create mess with the environment, I tell you, environment will create mess with your life in such a manner that you will not be able to survive. That question has come now. And so, whether you are reading philosophy, or you are reading or studying engineering, or you are studying physics, whatever subject, or you are studying mathematics, everywhere they are doing mathematical modeling of environment. Some physicists are doing, UV radiation and its effect. Chemistry people are doing, chemicals and its potential, and its harmful potential on environment. You are thinking of, the philosophers are thinking of the age-old civilization that we had, and how we have added so many pollutants, and how an imbalance has been created, and you are trying to understand how this imbalance can be created through your own subject, and trying to reach people, trying to reach human civilization in a very large way, so that they understand that it should not continue in this manner. That is basically the purpose of this FDP, as I have understood. Now, engineers, what I am a chemical engineer. What do I do? What really? I will give you a small example. Suppose a toxic gas is released. Chlorine gas is released. Chlorine gas is released. All of us, we use cooking gas. What is cooking gas? If you start the cooking gas, and if you do not burn the gas, you will get a very bad smell. That smell is basically dodecyl mercaptan. Do not think of the name. That is basically a sulfur compound, and that sulfur compound is given in that particular gas. It is mixed with that gas, because even in small concentration, immediately you will know that there has been gas leak. Then the gas will not burn, but it is warning you that there has been gas leak. Nose is a very important safety device for your body. Nose, because nose can detect concentration at a very, very low level. When there is no concentration available, you will not get even to only 1-2 molecules. Nose will be able to know. So that safety mechanism is given to our body. Now what really happens is that suppose there is a gas and it is leaking. What I will do? I will just put that gas in water or some solvent, and that solvent will take that gas. So the gas will not come to the air, but it has gone to water. Now what will you do with that water? You will tell me that, sir, give me some place where I will throw this water. Moment you throw this water into the Ganges or into any pond, water will get polluted. If you try to precipitate out, solid will come. And that solid value, where will you keep that solid? That solid is a mess that you have created. So you just cannot run away from this environment. You just cannot run away from what you are doing, because every moment you are creating some environmental pollution. And that is important to understand, that do not go beyond the carrying capacity of earth, because if you go beyond the carrying capacity of earth, the earth will not be able to accept the pollution that you are causing. So that is what is necessary to understand. And in the next lectures, what I will do, I will give you specific examples. I will draw, maybe on your board, I will draw figures, and I will try to make you understand, and you will be able to understand how the chemists have done, done these things. For example, many people say, I'll tell you, I'll just mention, and then I will end my lecture because I have time up to 2 o'clock. So, you will also go for lunch, right? You will also go for lunch. So, I'll give you a small example. Many people, we have knee-jerk reactions. What is the meaning of knee-jerk reactions? There is some problem, and immediately we say that, you karna chahiye. वो आपको करना चाहिए था. No, you think. Philosophers must think. For example, plastics. Plastics are very bad. Ban them. Just ban them. Do not allow plastics to be produced. You know what will happen if you if you ban plastics? I'll give you a small example. The amount of energy necessary to produce 1 kg of steel, 1 kg of steel, 1 kilogram of steel, with that amount of energy you can produce 8 kilogram of plastics. The amount of energy the amount of energy needed to produce 1 kg of aluminium metal, you can produce 28 kg of plastics with that amount of energy. So what really happens? The energy requirement for the process is small, and because of that, people use plastic because mass to energy ratio for that particular material is small. If you use a steel material, an iron material, that has used a large amount of energy. Where do you get energy from? By burning of coal, by burning of fuel. What does coal do? If you burn coal, what will happen? Coal produce carbon dioxide. Where will that carbon dioxide go? Carbon dioxide will go to air. So the point is, if you try to in any way take one step, you have to think, where are the other steps? Where am I going wrong? The point is, environmental chemistry and environmental engineering and environmental science and environmental philosophy becomes difficult because just by one discipline you cannot solve the problem. You have to change the mindset of people, and where their philosophy is needed, you must change the mindset of people. Whatever I do with my hands and my machine and things like that. What you do with the help of words and with the help of writings, what you do, you try to change the mind of people, and that is what is necessary. That is where the interface is. That is why the philosophy and environmental science, they match, and that combination will be necessary. So in the first lecture, what I just wanted to tell you is this, that this is a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary subject. I tried to give you some examples, It is a multidisciplinary subject, and these small examples, some examples you will keep in mind. That if this is done, it is something like if you move your right hand, the left hand also some muscles that is also doing some work. When you are moving your right hand, actually it is happening from the brain. You do not really care, you do not really understand, but the brain knows that the right hand is moving. Just like that, just like the organic thing that is happening, just like that, whatever you are doing, whatever process you are taking up, environment is being affected in some way or the other. And that is what the takeaway from this, that it is a very complicated subject. There is no shortcut solution. There is no easy solution. And you have to understand it in totality, holistic. The word holistic is important. You must take care of your body, mind, and spirit in order to understand environmental science. And only this science is difficult there. It is so difficult in that respect. So this is something I just wanted to tell you. I think you will, I have spoken from up to 13:53, Professor Podi. You gave me 1 hour. So I took 55, 53, 54 minutes. So I will end here. If you have any question, you please keep questions for me. So that, if I come tomorrow, I'll definitely try to come today. So tomorrow when I see, you will flood me with questions. You will ask me many questions, and so difficult questions that I will not be able to understand. There I get the maximum pleasure. You are a real persons who are doing good work. So I am so happy to be here on this online system. You are doing really good work, and you continue to do good work, and you are so gifted, beautiful individuals, and you are continuing. So thank you very much. This much I spoke, and tomorrow hopefully we will meet and we will discuss and we will deliberate. If you get some questions, please keep them.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful presentation. It is really wonderful. But definitely, we participants. Do you have any questions? Wonderful, beautiful question. Beautiful.
You may send me questions in the through emails, and I will send
Sir,
emails
yes, sir.
Professor Podi
I
has
request
all my contacts. Professor Podi
Yes.
knows me very well. I know Professor Podi very well. So the point is, and Professor Dr. Chatterjee, Madhuchanda Chatterjee Bhattacharya also has my contact. So you send me questions, and I will give you references. And if you need any work, if we can,
True, sir.
the most important thing is how can we do work together? A philosopher
Yeah.
and an engineer, they are working together. That is what is
True,
necessary.
sir. True. Sir,
Philosophers and engineers and scientists will come together to work a problem, to work on a problem.
True,
If
true.
we can do that.
Sir, actually,
Yes, it is our quest to establish that coexistence. It should be our quest, and that is a joint venture. It is not the important who we are. Philosophers are there to coordinate, and as you said,
Yeah.
we have to set the mindset. So we are there to set the tuning.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee, for adding some more points. But see,
Beautifully portrayed. Beautifully portrayed.
beautifully. See, Professor Chaudhary has already mentioned a lot of things from Shastras. He mentioned Madhuvata Ritayate, Madhu Ksharanti Sindhavu, Madhirigau Santausadi. All these are Madhurashtakam, and there are a lot of things are there. Even if you said that Paya Pratibhyam, Paya Usadhisa, Paya Dibhyam Tarikshe, Paya Dha, Paya Shruti. Even if Sahasra series of mantra in Rig Veda, they all are started from our Indian philosophical tradition and culture, and we believe that Vedas and Upanishads are the foundations of our Indian philosophical knowledge. But Professor Chaudhary has already mentioned about, though he is a scientist, as I mentioned earlier, but he has a beautiful exploration of our culture and how environment and culture is beautifully intermingled. He has mentioned. But Professor Chaudhary, you mentioned that who constructed human being? Who created human being? Is human being created by society, Darwinian theory of evolution, or the Big Bang theory, or the religion, or God? Now, in so far as the environmental philosophy is concerned, these are the questions related to epistemology, ontology, and spirituality. To some extent, environmental science also. Because see, I believe in throughout my educational career, I believe that history is the root, science is the medium, and philosophy is the fruit. So that's why uh, whenever you are understanding, whenever you understand something from the perspective of philosophical knowledge, science is required. That's why yesterday I was referring to physical science, that how nature is intrinsic valuable, and I was referring to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and also to Einstein's relativity theory, and I proved that I have proved that nature is intrinsically valuable, even if at micro level everything is quantumized. So these are the small things, but it has to be understood in a collaborative way. Science and philosophy both should be come together. And I request my participants, for future research, they must think about this collaboration.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Ashikul.
One thing is
Yeah,
important, sir.
be very
নমস্কার
brief.
স্যার, নমস্কার স্যার, আমি আশিকুল ফ্রম যাদবপুর ইউনিভার্সিটি।
নমস্কার।
আমি অনেক কিছু শুনেছি আপনার বিষয়ে, আজকে সত্যি খুব খুশি আপনাকে এখানে দেখে এবং পেয়ে। সো স্যার, আই হ্যাভ এ কোশ্চেন, স্যার পারি
খারাপ
স্যার
খারাপ
অলসো
শোনেননি তো?
কি স্যার, না খুবই ভালো লাগলো স্যার আপনার লেকচার শুনে, এবং ফিজিক্যালি যখন অফলাইন হবে তখন আরো খুব ভালো হবে। So, sir, Padi sir also said the same thing. The science is required. As a chemical engineer, as a scientist, I have a question. So, what is this limitations of scientific advancement and technological advancements? Here is also regarding my question is morality. The scientific advancements also morality. Is it moral हम लोग जहाँ पहुंच रहे हैं और जहाँ तक जा रहे हैं साइंटिफिक एडवांसमेंट के लिए, या हमारा मोरालिटी और बाउंडेशन ये हम क्रॉस कर रहे हैं कि नहीं? क्योंकि हमारे जो साइंटिफिक एडवांसमेंट में हम लोग वो मोरालिटी अगर नहीं फॉलो करेंगे तो शायद ही ये धरती, ये दुनिया नहीं बचेगा, हमको लगता है। और अकॉर्डिंग टू टेगर ऑल्सो यू आर सेइंग, so sir, our natural environment is also very need for this protection of environment. So what should be these limitations in the scientific advancements and temperament? We are all times going towards the scientific temperaments, advancement, time consumerism. So what's your opinion
Yeah,
regarding this?
tomorrow I will talk about Ashikul. Really nice talking to you. I mean, nice hearing you. Tomorrow I will talk about Lovelock, and Lovelock has talked
James
about this.
Lovelock.
Yeah, the point is he has talked about private morality versus and public morality.
Yes. Beautiful.
Private morality and public morality, and I will tomorrow, please remember, tomorrow we will talk about NIMBY syndrome, not in
Yes.
my backyard syndrome, NIMBY syndrome.
Yeah.
So the point is, this private morality is extremely important so far as this entire environment debate is concerned. And tomorrow I will be able to tell you something on this, I hope.
So participants, be ready
Okay,
for
sir.
tomorrow for asking
ধন্যবাদ।
questions. Because
Yes, tomorrow
we'll have a
I'll try to, there must be some limit, and we will not cross that limit. That should be but people are trying. In fact, the United Nations organization, whatever is conferences are taking. But the point is, I will tell you also that
Yeah.
big countries are not doing enough for
Yeah.
this. This is not an individual job. This is
Still,
basically a
sir,
collective action that is
UNESCO, still,
True,
sir,
true.
they are also funding for technology or engineering. So I think should be limitations.
there should be, and
Right.
we will talk about it tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. ধন্যবাদ।
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. On behalf of ICPR and on behalf of this workshop, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor Chaudhary. We are getting Professor Chaudhary physically by 9:30 tonight, and we'll meet you in the dinner, sir.
Sure.
Because I am staying with the participants,
Oh,
and
that's very good.
you will also stay with the participants.
Oh, that's
So
very
we'll have a beautiful.
that will be good. That will be good.
But thank you for giving us your precious time. You are absolutely busy, but you are making time for us, and you are coming to Lucknow, and we'll be waiting. We'll be eagerly waiting for you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Puri. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
participants. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I wish you a safe flight.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Participants, I think we now it is past 2, so you just rush to the lunch, because lunch is ready at ICPR Academic Center. I'll be little late. I'll be with Professor Silvam, and I will take him to the lunch venue. We'll have lunch, then we'll start around 2:30 to 3 p.m. We'll start our lecture. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Pranam.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar.
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 Namaskar, sir. Namaskar. Yeah. Participants, you be ready for lunch, because Jaishankar ji was calling me. He said that lunch is ready. Please come. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Sure, sir.